All right, and we are live. The last word returns. LordCognito, Tie Guy Travis, Ebontis, fresh on that Thursday evening campfire with some amazing guests here for the event. We know that happened this week. There's a lot going on in Destiny. A lot of smiles I see. A lot of excitement right now. I'm not used to this. Thumbs up right now. I'm not used to this energy right now. Well, let's start with the cheetah. Ebontis, how are we doing, sir?
Doing good. Been playing a lot of Destiny. Got hyped for Destiny on Tuesday. Future of Destiny is gonna be interesting to say the least. We will talk about all of what we got to see and what we've been playing. They did reveal in the Triple I showcase, it was like the big indie initiative thing. I got to finally say that I got to play the Rogue Prince of Persia. It was the last one in the show, so that's what I got to play.
Nice.
So the creators of Dead Cells, which if you've played any of the roguelikes, 2Ds, Dead Cells, they made a roguelike for Prince of Persia. So the creators, smooth animation, stuff like that. The art style is going to be probably a give and take on some people, because after playing The Lost Crown being so good and just a very, different art style, this is very more artistic and just, I think some people's not going to land with. I've even seen that in a couple of tweets out there, but played well, ran really smooth. Difference being now of Prince of Persia, you've got your wall climb where you can actually traverse up walls when you're running around and actually traveling through the environment. In my little private session, I got to get to a boss fight. Got to it both times. Almost had him on the second one, but didn't quite get the boss down on the second try. But a lot of good stuff that I saw yesterday. Indies now, I mean, Travis has said it for a while. It's where you see a lot of creativity. I saw more RTSs than I would have expected actually yesterday. But
noise.
All different kind of scales and takes on them. Couple roguelikes for sure. Some bullet hells. Quite a few different ones that look interesting.
How was the Power World stuff?
Power World was a PvP arena thing, I think they mentioned. So that was in there. Yeah, it's like I had a
Slay the Spire 2.
Yeah, that was another one. Slay the Spire 2 was.
Yeah, that's gonna be a big one.
There's a crazy, like the isometric bullet hell one was Kill Knight. Like it was very gritty. I feel like if you watch Scarrow, like if you watch the trailer, it has like
right now.
It has music and a gritty voice that's just like pure angry. It seems like it fits your
it seems like a Scarrow
music.
Thing.
Yeah, it feels like a Scarrow thing for sure. The other one that was in there
has one of those like ADHD trailers that is totally my vibe.
Yeah, it's a lot to It is a lot to digest for sure.
Yeah.
Flintlock the Siege of Dawn. There was a little bit of that in there. Doesn't feel like it fits in the indie showcase, but I'm definitely excited for it. Trying to see Hyperlight Breakers, another one that's in summer. A lot of summer stuff, a lot of 2024, which is cool. So even if it's not,
they just open up like a dictionary and pick random words. They're like, all right, hyper.
Breaker. Well, this first one was Hyperlight Drifter, so this is the sequel to
it.
So.
They did it for the first one then, and then the second one was just a natural progression from there.
But yeah, early access to the Rogue Prince of Persia starts on May 14th. And then more stuff's coming. I know 33 Immortals. That was a big Xbox push. That's May 24th for the closed beta. So a lot of stuff there in the indie showcase, but I won't take too long because everything else I've been playing is Destiny. We'll get to talking about that. So Travis, what have you been up to, man?
Yeah, we are continuing IGN First's coverage of Eternal Strands. This week we got a dev diary interview about how they're using Unreal Engine 5 to do some really cool stuff with thermodynamics and physics and fun kind of sandboxy stuff. And then we also got today a look into how their studio started and how they arrived at the game that they're working on. So kind of like a look inside their studio and the people that they have on their team, which includes an interview with Mike Laidlaw, lead writer on Jade Empire, creative director for Dragon Age, worked on Mass Effect 1, Legend of BioWare fame. So that was pretty cool. And next week we're going to keep continuing on with more and more coverage. We're only halfway through. So if you have any interest in indie games or some cool smaller projects, definitely recommend looking into that. I'm also reviewing a game that's right on this screen right here that I cannot even tell you about until the 17th of the month. So 6 more days. And then I've got... Oh, we did Fireteam chat this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Episode 301.
There's that. Episode 301 happened this week. So we can talk about how that came about on the show. But if you didn't know, we did an episode of Fireteam Chat. You can watch it on YouTube or at IGN.com right now, and that was pretty cool. And we may or may not have some Destiny coverage in our future.
What?
So, times.
What?
Exciting time to be around.
So
That's
Fred
wild.
The Google Trends goes. The Google Trends goes. Bloop. IGN's like, look at that. Follow the blip.
I will say it has. I've been heartened this week because as Ebontis and Cog know, I have been actually having to actively fight to keep covering Destiny because it performs so poorly at IGN to our audience. And it's not because the game is like in the dumps. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying that Destiny is a community where they can get their news straight from like very specific creators who just cover Destiny.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you've got this large big tent name like IGN, they're just like, yeah, I don't know, it doesn't really do, to the point where we almost didn't review Lightfall, and I had to fight for that to happen.
You fought for that.
I mean, it makes sense too, right? Because like with Fireteam Chat, a lot of the personality was like that's what people relate to, right? And so it's like you lost a lot of that like personal connection. It makes sense, but I hope it seems like it's still there. That Fireteam Chat looked like it was doing really well. So
yeah, it did pretty well. I mean, it did numbers, and also I'm used to going to an IGN YouTube video and seeing like 98% toxicity. And there was like not a bad comment there, which is crazy for an IGN
crazy
video.
It's
crazy. Like that, I was just like, is this somebody else's channel? This is nuts. Look at all this. So yeah, there was a lot of love, and I really appreciate all the love and support there. And maybe we'll keep it going. I mean, just for your guys' knowledge, our ability to do Fireteam Chat 100% depends on Destin's willingness to actually do it and his interest in the game. Because IGN basically gives him no resources to it. So they're like, look, if you want to do it, you can do it. But if you don't want to do it, then we're totally fine with it not happening. And so if Destin isn't currently interested in talking about Destiny, Fireteam Chat doesn't happen. And
it's
so
it's a big moment.
That's about the size of it, right? This is the first time in years that I ever saw Destin be like, I actually want to talk about Destiny today. Let's do it. And as soon as he lit the flame, we were like, Gondor calls for aid.
I was about to say, the flames of Gondor.
That's it. Off the bat signal. Let's go.
Yeah, we came.
Nice,
so it was a lot of fun, man.
No doubt. Yeah, jump in.
Talk about our guests.
Yeah, well, definitely.
Sorry. Wait. We didn't do Cog. Sorry, I thought you went first
good.
for some reason because you did the intro.
All good. No, it's good to see everybody. Not much, just a ton of Destiny, obviously. We'll get into that. We're playing a ton of new content. We'll get into all that stuff. The only thing I have to do is actually got a chance to check out a game that I technically can't talk about just yet, but I can tell the studio has made a tweet today, and it'll be Warhorse Studios' newest game, and look forward to that. I got a chance to check that out, and pretty excited to be covering that, and I'll get more information on that very soon. So that's my first down with Trav and E on something for the first time. Seeing something I'm not supposed to earlier, but it was really cool. So yeah, no doubt on that. But we've got two special guests, E, and one returning that I was watching this video, just came up on my feed, talking about Pantheon. You know what I mean? My man Scarrow, how we doing, sir?
Oh, dude, I'm doing great. I woke up yesterday for the first time in a very long time, just wanting to skip work and play Destiny, which is a great feeling. You know what I mean? And that's like, I play Destiny every day, but yesterday was the first time I was like, oh yeah, we're back. You know what I mean? It's good. Before we start talking about all the Destiny stuff, you guys see all the Judas coverage?
Yes.
I'm a BioShock stan, real hard.
Yes.
And I just didn't know if there's any plans for that, Travis, or anything, because Judas looks excellent, and I'm very excited to get any and all information. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure we will be covering it more.
Cool. Nice. Yeah, it's really cool. They have like a new unique like storytelling system where they call it like the Lego system or something, and depending on which faction you work with, it dramatically changes the story and stuff. I think it's really cool. Kevin Levine's like awesome, so I'm really excited for it. So.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Friends Per Second had a good interview, and I forget. I've seen a couple different ones did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then also might be kind of copium, but I think Dead Space 2 remake was like soft confirmed because they came out and EA was like, it was not canceled. We were never, or because the rumor was they were working on it and it got canceled, and EA came out and said,
Opposite.
"What do you mean? You don't think they're working on it at all?
No.
You don't think they would have said that?
Beef between Jason
There
Schreier
was-
and Jeff Grubb on this. Did you ever see
Well,
this?
No,
Jeff,
no.
Jeff Grubb
No.
is not a source I would trust. Just to be clear, like
Sure.
he's a cool guy. He's got I'm not
Sure.
I know
you just
banging on him or whatever. I'm just saying I
You're
would
not
not
banging on
trust his. I would not trust his reporting as being particularly trustworthy or reliable. However, Schreier and one of my bosses, Kat, they both chimed in to say, that's not true. It seems like they were never really working on Dead Space 2,
Oh,
so there was nothing to
shit.
cancel.
Then why would they
So-
come out and say it the way they did? They know how people are going to interpret
They
that.
said there was
Yeah.
there was no validity to the rumors, which EA is like the only major company I know who actually responds when you
Mhm.
reach out for comment on a rumor. They always do. And they've in the past been pretty straightforward when things have got not leaked. They usually say like either we're not talking about that at the time, which you can say as like, okay, that's a confirmation that it is happening,
Yeah.
or they say like that's just not true. Which
Well,
is
thanks for ruining all my
confirmation
hopes and
it's not
dreams.
true.
Like, what the
Yeah.
hell?
So I would love to ruin your hopes and dreams. That said, I
Mhm.
think that they're just because they haven't been working on and therefore weren't able to cancel work on a Dead Space 2
Yeah.
does not mean that is not being planned, which the people who are on emailing lists in for EA received surveys a while back on their interest in a Dead Space 2 or a Dead Space 3 remake, right?
Cool.
And so if you're sending those out last year, you're definitely not working on the game now, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
yeah.
that's my point, is like this is something they still could do in the future. I just think that whoever reported on it being canceled or it already being worked on, there's a lot of evidence, circumstantial and also direct reporting, to suggest that is way farther down the road and that it's not something that is currently actively being
Cool.
developed.
Okay,
So
cool. Good.
yeah.
Thanks for the clarification. So hopefully it happens. Really excited for that.
it could happen. I would not expect it like next year. I don't think they're going to be like the Resident Evil franchise and like do like one every other year or whatever. I think
Yeah,
it's gonna
I'm
be
sure it's
quick.
not cheap, Like, it seems like a lot of work went into even the first one, and the second game's like 3 times bigger than Dead Space 1,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
And
It's a-
multiplayer, right? Or is that 3?
yeah, there was multiplayer, yeah.
There's multiplayer too. Is 2 the one where like you could see hallucinations of stuff that wasn't really there and hurt your
Yeah.
teammate?
In
great
multiplayer?
mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, well, okay, sorry. When you say multiplayer, there's a FPS like multiplayer or a third-person multiplayer like PvP mode.
Oh, okay.
Dead
so 3
Space
must be
3
the one
had
I'm
a
thinking of.
had a
Yeah,
co-op
yeah.
campaign.
Right.
Yeah.
But you
that-
also hallucinated Dead Space 2, so there's a lot of overlap, but they're different things.
Yeah, no, in Dead Space 3, the thing I'm thinking of is in co-op, sometimes you would see things that your co-op partner didn't see. And it would cause you guys to have like miscommunications, or sometimes your friend would
Yes.
show up as a necromorph and like you would shoot your friend on accident. and-
Yeah.
Yeah, like it had like messed with you mentally. It was really cool.
I really hope
Uh,
they
for all that
eventually-
game-
Give
for
me
all that
one
game's
sec. I'm
shortcomings.
just gonna like kind
What's
of
up?
reset the server here. So
You good? You good?
1 second.
Sure. You guys getting
There we
Boom.
go.
Yeah,
Your
I-
mouth was not matching your voice, Travis. So I was
Okay.
just back into training.
Oh.
You're good now.
That's just me. I'm just practicing ventriloquism. That was did it work?
It was.
Uh,
It was weird. Yes, it was weird. Mana.
But I do hope they make it all the way through Dead Space 3 on the remakes. And I think Dead Space 3 did a lot of things right, a lot of things wrong. I love the story. I want to see it again. I'll stop talking about it because Mano hasn't gone yet, and I'm sorry.
Nope, you're good. Mano, man, how you doing?
We're just straight chilling. I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm hopeful. Ready to talk about some Destiny. I'm not going to talk too much because I want to hear what everyone else has to say. So
Yeah.
really excited.
Get to it.
All
Yeah.
right.
We know what we here for, damn it.
This week, we knew the Final Shape gameplay developer gameplay preview. They said it was kind of the first named stream like that. Not Vidoc, not something else. Developer gameplay preview. Basically ended up being like a Vidoc, though, just under a different title, in my opinion. And we got a lot more than I think any of us expected, because we had talked on the show that we only were getting subjugators. Oh, kind of sad. Oh, there's no new subclass. Oh, kind of sad. I've been waiting for anything armor related, and this is a small piece, but still, anything related to armor. Don't really have a whole lot of that coming. Check, check, and check. So overall, as you walked through the stream, it was kind of like, all right, didn't expect that. Okay, that looks kind of cool. All right, how crazy is this going to get? And then we got an article today about one of them. It's a bit more of a deep dive on the subclass. So just on the overall view of when you guys watch the stream and then you were done watching the stream, and you're like, all right, now I know I got to go dive into the light and see what's up in there. When you got done watching the stream, just where were you? Like, where were you mentally when you got done watching the stream? Mano first.
I mean, I was just hyped. Like the first 2 minutes was all it needed to take. Like, hey, remember how we're not having a new subclass? Oh yeah, we are having a new subclass. We're going to just throw everything in the wall. Like that to me set the stage for they're going to go for broke, which I think is the best thing that they could do right now. They need to, we've been saying it, and I've been a guest a couple of times here, but I've always just been saying they just need to let loose. And whatever was stopping them before, or maybe it was development time or whatever, it seems like they're going full bore. And I think that is exciting. I'm hyped. I'm hyped for it, but I'm also know that we've heard this story before, so I'm cautiously optimistic. So really optimistic because that first minute or two was just like, hey, yeah, by the way, we're just gonna just show this stuff of like, here's Stasis and Solar and Void Energy going at the same time. That was just amazing. And it like they didn't have to say a word. That was the best part. They just showed that one. It was like a 30-second video of just the stuff happening. They didn't have to say anything. I was like, okay, I'm sold. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
Garo, what about you, man?
Yeah, when the clip started, that clip was done by Zachary Brown, I think his name is.
Yeah, he
Unbelievable.
Oh, unbelievable.
Yeah, he said he's like 600 takes at it. That's all
Yeah, which is like, yeah, like holy. It's really funny because like I was so overwhelmed. I saw like he starts like doing all this shit, and I had no idea what was going on. And then I saw the new enemy race. That was the first thing I noticed. And I was like, whoa! And then he uses the super in like a different melee. And I was like, finally, like 20 seconds of the clip, I was like, wait a second, this is not what this is supposed to look like. And from that point to the end of the stream, just like my brain was numb. I was just like, what? Just mentally destroyed, gone, numb. I had no idea what was happening anymore. And it was I just love being excited about the game, man.
I know, right? It's been so long. It's been so long. It's been. You give us a little drop of water. You give us a cracker. Oh,
I
man.
had friends jumping on that have not played the game in like a year, and all of a sudden I just see them showing up, and I'm like, okay, we back. Like, cool. Yeah. People are excited, and people like. I think we said it before the show. Being excited to like. Get home from work, run home from work, and play. Like that has not been a feeling we felt for a long time.
Yeah.
Fog.
100%.
Man, very, very emotional for me because obviously y'all know how much I love this damn game, even during the dark times. So we know how important this is. You know, obviously I want to give Andy Salisbury and the team with the developer streams prior to this, though they did a fantastic job of setting things up. So this was like, okay, you're going to show the final shape. How are you going to do this? I'm coming into it mentally. You're going to do a lore beat and probably dance. You know, that was how I came into it. So, you know, to Mano's point, it was pure execution of just gameplay and go. And I think for me was Prismatic right off the jump. You know, this is stuff that we've always said. Wouldn't it be cool if Bungie allows you to do this? Wouldn't it be cool if they allowed you to merge some classes or have some form of build crafting? And for me, as a person who exists in the game and has my sole enjoyment of the game for what builds and perks and combinations you can come with, that's what keeps me in Destiny now during its downtime. To see that level of creativity, and I'm like, wait a minute, he has Bleak Watchers and Strand Weaveling. I'm like, what is going on? And so that was the first thing. And then the first person I thought of mine was Travis, because I'm like, I'm watching it and I'm like, okay, that's cool. But then I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, we have enemies. Like we have a bat with a gun, and we've got all these different variants. And I'm like,
can I shout out David Samuel?
Yes.
Dude,
yes.
There are a lot of people I want to go like hang out with at Bungie and like just pick their brain on a lot of things and stuff like that. I gotta imagine if you're on David Samuel's team, you gotta be laughing like half the time. The dude seems like he is having a blast anytime he is on screen, and he would he would do really okay.
As somebody who's been at a bar with David Samuel,
talk to me.
He is exactly who he is in those dev diaries.
Nice.
That's
he's
awesome.
He's got a very like loud and noticeable laugh. You could hear him from like across the room. He's always smiling. Super nice guy. So
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Love
yeah.
you, Dave.
Yeah, man. It was again. It was
I just
short,
want
sweet
him
to the
on
point.
here doing like sound effects the whole time.
Yeah. He's hilarious. He's hilarious.
You know it's going to be hype when you see him, though.
Exactly.
Too.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
he does
yeah.
bring
It's
it
gonna
every
happen.
time.
But
He brings it every time.
Yeah, absolutely right. But here's the key thing. I think I know what it is, Scarrow. I know why I got emotional. Because when it started, let's be real, we have not seen Luke Smith in ages.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I
So
mean,
to me, Luke Smith is symbolic for
Yeah,
the state of the game. Luke Smith, to me, even though he may be now the Kevin Feige of the Destiny universe, right? In my opinion, the last time I saw him was when back was to the wall. Activision situation. We didn't feel Forsaken met competition. And he was the first person to come out and say, yo, we are proud of what we did. Right. So to hear him talk about, okay, this and then the future of Destiny, and we've got things more past it was just that glimmer of hope. So to me, I came into it like the body showed little signs of life prior with the other streams. And now it's like, oh, we may be beaten. Now, look, we still got a long ways to go. You know, I'm team positive. I'm team optimism. We still got a long way to go. But this was, I felt, the best possible start as a roadmap to get potentially hype. We know they got to knock the lore out, the story, the raid. There's still things they got to do. We know that. But I will say I haven't seen this energy from the community in so long. Like, pages of my Destiny clan were past 3.
Yep.
I'm like, what is happening? I'm looking at most games played. I'm looking at Steve. I'm like, what is going on? I'm tweeting 1,000 miles per minute about how excited I am. And people are like championing on with it. I'm seeing people I haven't even seen. I'm like, oh, Glad is back. Oh, this one's back. And like, what is happening? It was like that old Taken King feel. When Destiny is good, I have to admit, this community is nothing like I've ever seen, but it is the most loyal base I have ever seen. And when it's back, it's a movement. And it felt like that. For one day, I had a little tear of joy. I was like, oh, this is dope. This is dope, man. So we'll see if they can land the plane. But yeah, I was excited. And it was cool to see. I'm dying to hear what Travis got to say because, again, for me, I know how, as a reviewer, how he is. He grounds us. He keeps things in perspective. And I was just really cool to see Fire Team chat come back. I'm like, yo, what is happening?
I legit stopped to watch that video. Like, I saw it. I'm like, what?
I ran right down. Oh, Travis on, Fran Marabella, Destiny again. I'm like, I'm watching. So excuse my excitement, but it was good to see you. Trav, you're up next.
Yeah. So I will ground you, but I will say that I think the positivity and the encouragement that the community is feeling right now is not unwarranted. I will still ground you though, but I will say that as somebody who is a critic professionally and also tends to get pretty over Destiny at times when I think it warranted when it happens. But as somebody who does it, I am heartened certainly by what I saw. I will say I had the opposite reaction when I saw Luke Smith at the beginning. Ooh. To me, that was sort of a red flag because seeing Luke Smith talking about the future of Destiny reminded me an awful lot of was Joe Blackburn? Was that
Blackburn.
Joe Blackburn? Talking about, you know, what's coming after Lightfall, right after we had seen, or when we haven't even really played Lightfall yet, right? To me, that stuff is sort of like, hey, the future and the greatness of Destiny is still in the future. And I'm always like, okay, but what am I going to be playing tomorrow, right? What are you selling me now, right? And so to me, it was a little bit of like, okay, are they going to keep doing this? The future of Destiny is bright, and right now it remains mid, you know? And so that was my initial worry with seeing that. But I think they showed exactly what people needed to see is that they're swinging for the fences with this expansion, whether it's this possibly game breaking, I have no idea how it's going to fit in the sandbox and make it make sense, prismatic subclass, or completely defying all of my expectations when it comes to having the first enemy subclass in 6 years since 2018 with Forsaken, which is crazy. And God, did we need that, right? So I think that was really cool. I will say, all of the stuff that I personally have been worried about with this expansion, I'm still worried about, right?
Yeah.
And it's all the stuff that they haven't talked about. It's what does the campaign actually look like? Is the Witness actually going to be any kind of character that I can have any sort of feelings for or towards or any relationship with? And it seems like right now that's probably not the case. And so
No, absolutely.
I think maybe, I think maybe the stuff that they didn't show is also something to keep in mind, is the stuff that they chose to focus on with this and the stuff they didn't choose to focus on, because usually these sorts of press releases are geared toward the lowest common denominator. It is, what's the band they're always using? Is it Van Halen? Is that who they always use in their trailers or whatever? It's like a rock band song with cool epic shots of somebody doing something cool or a character saying something evil or whatever. And then you roll credits. It's just like the build up the hype but don't actually show any of the depth stuff.
And let's be honest, the trailer team always kills it, no matter what. They always do. So they just have a great team on the trailer side.
Yeah. But I think they've relied on that a lot and basically said like, hey, this is going to be like a fun action game, hop in. And this time they didn't do that. This time they spoke directly to the hardcore players. Because if you're not a hardcore player, Prismatic doesn't really mean a lot to you. If you're not a hardcore player, you don't spend an entire section talking about one exotic class item. But people who play Destiny know why that's such a big deal. You probably talk about the new enemy subclass either way, but I was genuinely surprised, and they either tricked us by only showing the subjugator in that first preview, or this is a direct result of the delay, which it could be. It 100% could be. This could have been something that they had planned for down the road, and that they thought wasn't going to make the deadline, and then somebody said, "Hey, look, I don't think that this expansion really hits where we need it to hit without this new without this new enemy class." And God, they had better be the enemy in the raid. Separate problem, but I'm sure they will be. I am super surprised and pleasantly surprised with this, and I think now they've got a shot. Before I was pretty down in the dumps on like this expansion not really meeting expectations, but with the new subclass, new enemy factions, the thing about the exotic is that most people aren't going to care. But the people who are hardcore are definitely going to care and are going to spend probably the next year of their lives farming different rolls of that one item to get different combinations of perks, every single combination they can think of, which I don't even want to think about how many combinations there are for that one item. They're just going to spend the rest of their lives grinding that. And I think that was basically like an olive branch to hardcore of like, oh, you're going to have stuff to hunt. You're not going to be able to just craft all your weapons and that's it. Like you're going to be doing the what's the Nightfall strike, the
Grandmaster.
You're gonna be doing Grandmaster Nightfalls for a year trying to get the best roll of this specific item. I think it's even if you're like me and you're more of a kind of a pessimist with this stuff, and some of that is maybe earned based on recent content releases from Bungie, I think you have a lot to be excited about, and I don't think you should feel bad about feeling excited about it, because I think there's a lot to actually be optimistic about in that demo. There really is.
I need to know, what was you doing? What was your face like? What was happening?
I mean, I streamed it, so it's probably out there somewhere. No, I was thoroughly impressed, as I said, when I introduced this entire topic, that I was like, oh, like, it was just different levels of I did not expect.
How I knew Ebontis was excited is usually when there's a stream going, Ebontis is in like a Discord with me and Cog, and he's like messaging us while it's happening, and he was doing that right before the show, and like for the first 5 seconds when Luke came out to talk, and then once they started showing gameplay, I didn't hear Ebontis for like an hour and a half. He was just like gone, and I was like, oh, he's in the paint right now, like he's hard in the paint. So
it was just the opening section with the little tornado, and then I was like, okay, that's a subjugator. Why is that enemy flying? Why are there so many colors in the bottom left hand corner? So there was a lot to digest very quickly. Could it have been anything else besides?
Oh,
just,
that's cool
I-
for the I was
that's-
jealous the Titans got that.
Oh, you got this
that's cool.
you got this
You
like
know,
Doctor Strange like
You know what
Wait,
they
Titan
should've done?
Army, I didn't like this.
Here's what
That battle.
I
Titans
didn't
is
mind
just-
it, but here's what they really should have done for the Titan. You guys
What they
saw
should've
Mission Impossible with Henry Cavill, right?
Oh, he
Yeah.
should have
Oh,
cocked his arms.
that
That
would have
would've
been
been
okay, you wanted that. You wanted that.
Oh, that
There
would
you
have
go.
been the best, actually.
Here's
That
your-
would've been
here's
sick.
logo. You don't need this. Just the
Guys,
Just we
don't-
always
well,
punch, so it's
don't-
just like I was
don't
looking
worry.
for something a little different.
Don't worry, they'll be selling different
That's the
animations
key.
as
Oh,
DLC in no
Don't
time
worry,
at all.
Tess will definitely
Don't
sell
worry.
Yeah.
Oh,
different
yeah.
variants
Don't
for Prismatic.
worry.
Hey, if there's an
Yeah.
arm reload from Henry Cavill in Mission Impossible, they will actually get my money on that one. But
Alright,
I don't
fair
do it
enough.
often.
I do think it's really funny that like when Strand came out and it was another melee super, everyone's like, "Oh, it's another melee subclass," and now Prismatic, because it's just the old supers, is essentially another
Melee subclass, yeah. And that's why when I was like melee punch, I'm like, come on. Because
Did
like
you guys
yeah,
see
at
on the
least-
UI
at least-
though? On the UI, it looks like not all of them will be available, right? Like they chose kind of a selection.
A select.
Because if all of them
There's-
are available, then you have literally no reason to use the others.
no,
so I
there's-
assume they're
there's
just
a
being
whole
made.
article
They
we'll
broke
get
it down
to,
in the
yeah.
blog yesterday.
Yeah, we'll get to
Yeah,
that
so-
article.
Okay,
It's
okay.
not all available. I have thoughts about
Yeah.
that too.
Mhm.
I
But
think,
no,
I
my,
think that's the right call.
Oh,
Otherwise,
yeah.
people never play the.
You would never play the regular.
You would never. Why would you ever play with just
It's like
solar if you could not do that?
well, then fine. I'll get this out of the way. My
We'll get to that.
perspective,
Get to it.
my hunch about that would be that this is if there's a future beyond this game we are currently living in, that this test bed of combining things, if they're going to do anything in whatever a future thing that may or may not have been worked
Right.
on and has a may or may not named title to it, thanks news articles and Tassie and other
News
people.
articles and leaks.
I could see them just saying, "Hey, you want to unlock all these powers?" And if they can find a way to make all of them work, and it's just like you can pick whatever type of if you have control of the light and the dark, and you can use whatever thing you want in D3, sure, that this might be a test for that. And also in future episodes, maybe they could add more pieces in there because they called this an advanced subclass.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah.
going just by name alone, you're kind of putting the other ones to shame. There are limitations. We'll get to that one, but
Mhm.
yeah, in the long run, it does feel like this is where something needs to go. Like this is either an end game for where we are, or this is what the next one will look like. But for me, it would be general pretty hyped, curious, just digesting everything. I was trying to like think about combinations, and then the exotic, they passed over that really quickly, but they were saying multiple things. So I had to go back and like rewatch it, and then I jumped into the light. So I was trying to digest everything and then wrap my head around it. But overall, it was general hype. You guys pretty much said everything that I need to at this point. I wanted
hype.
general hype. Hey, How I Met Your Mother. Nice, good stuff. You have to have watched that show because the suits alone. So I do remember that.
He's based on me. I
Yeah.
existed first, just for the record.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start wearing suits?
Before that show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Verified.
Cog brought up
Certified
actually
trash.
something that would be where I do want to actually start this discussion and kind of what I speculated on there for a little bit. It is Luke Smith's words. He's very specific in what he's going to say. He always will
Yes,
be,
of
but there's
course.
also a whole lot between the lines to try and read into or speculate about. And he said, Destiny 2 is not going anywhere. Destiny is not going anywhere. And after you beat the Witness, and I'm probably guessing before we get episode 1, kind of in that, like maybe when the raid's done that Monday before, it feels like, I don't know if it would be that fast, but then it's like, we're going to tell you what's coming for Destiny 2, which probably is in a layout of the episodes to get people hyped up for those, and beyond. That doesn't sound like it's within Destiny 2, so I wanted to get your guys' thoughts, and whoever wants to talk first, don't all talk at once. Because when I say this, nobody speaks for a second, but
I have thoughts on this, and they are not as exciting as some other people. So maybe I'll just burst
right.
bubbles.
Travis, you
I
come in
think-
with the
I think-
pessimism, and then we'll just knock it out.
I don't even know if this is pessimism based on their messaging in the past, but I don't think he's talking about video games. He specifically cites the future of Destiny 2, and he says it's not the end of Destiny. And I think he's talking about the expanded universe that will be comics and will be, maybe a Netflix show and will be probably an album on Sony Music. I don't know. They're gonna, they have that whole Sony infrastructure that they wanted so bad so that they could do other media types, and I think that's probably what they're referring to.
Well,
I just wanted to wink at the camera. He was this close. You could tell he wanted to do it. He did the little smirk. I thought there was going to be a wink, but
he's looking good. He's one of those guys where you're like,
Yeah.
you know what? You know when success makes nerds look less nerdy, like
Yeah.
kind of like Todd Howard. Like Todd Howard is cool now,
yeah.
you know, because he's got money. And it's like I was like, oh man,
why are
Luke
you wearing
Smith's
that
doing
jacket?
all right.
I'm cool.
He's cool,
Yeah.
man. Stuff is outside.
Kind of, you know, he kind of looked like
Mhm.
I don't say it. But yeah,
The man looking good.
I
The man
think
looking
you had
good.
your internet joke for the day earlier, and that went over real interesting.
Hey.
But anyway,
hey,
I thought that was a great
do not
joke.
repeat it here.
thank you. It was a good jokey. Go on my Twitter.
I thought the joke kicked like a Bronco. That's all I'm saying,
Thank
dude.
you.
It was pretty
Thank
good.
Wow, that's where we're going with it, huh?
Yeah.
Timely.
Nice.
That was
very good.
All right. Anybody else's thoughts? Anybody with a different take than Travis on Luke Smith's words?
I think I'll jump in. I think that what I get from it is when you look at what they're doing here, things that the community have always wanted them, again, take the reins off, let us go crazy, stop restricting us, right? To your point, E, it does feel like a precursor to something that they may eventually lead to. Now, I don't know where the timeline of the game starts because obviously we know Marathon is still a thing, but at the same time, remember coming into this expansion, I was like, look, I'm worried about power creep, bro. They're giving us the best weapons in the game with the damn arsenal, with this onslaught. They're just doing all these things. I'm like, how is Final Shape going to control us right now? Obviously, we've seen some enemies that have suppressive abilities and stuff, so on and so forth. But this is unprecedented power keep.
Oh no,
right?
they're breaking it to do something.
They
Yeah,
are breaking the
gone.
game.
PvP,
So there's a
I think Travis said it in
Keep in
Fireteam
mind-
chat too. PvP
Yeah,
is
can
just
all-
gone.
oh,
PvP's
God bless that new
toast.
PvP
It's
team
funny,
that got
too.
But
hired.
I will say,
Because
But
they
I will
like
say-
took 2 steps forward, and then it's
Right.
like, oh yeah, by the way, when Final Shape comes out. So anyway, sorry, Travis.
Yeah.
go.
I was just gonna say they can always take backs Cog with
Mhm.
nerfs. Nerfs are the new sunset, and so we've seen them do this before, where they like create something broken, and then over time it gets less good. And so they can do that with your weapons. They can do it with your powers. They have and will for sure change
Oh
the
yeah,
way
they'll definitely
Prismatic works.
nerf. They'll definitely.
So-
I just feel this potentially could be a precursor to what the symbolic name of Final Shape actually is. The Final Shape is us having everything. Even when they showed that imagery.
Oh, that
of what
concept
a
art was so
guardian-
cool.
Oh, it was fire with a
Yeah.
light and darkness, mixed guardian.
Yep.
So part of me is, what if the Final Shape is, okay, we take away these restrictions, right? We mess around with it now. The sandbox obviously is going to be broken as hell, is crazy, but
Yep.
fun for the hardcore, right? And then if we are to do a Destiny 3, this is the new foundation. This is the build crafting that people always want. Now, again, I am Mr. Positive. I am hopeful. I know. But at the same time, it just seems very strange how aggressively they are pivoting into letting us do all the things we want to do. Then you're talking about, we've always said, E, wouldn't it be cool if you can, use multiple exotics at one time? That's literally what the class item is doing. The class item is
Just the
literally taking the
But yeah.
perks of some of the best exotics, combining them into one thing. So again, it's all this flirtation, right? All this, and I'm just curious if this is a precursor to some whiteboard somewhere that Luke Smith has, or maybe not Luke Smith anymore because obviously he's not the game director
Yeah.
anymore. But that someone has had and said, okay, this could be a foundation for D3 Final Shape, and a world post Final Shape. We go back to a system where we could literally customize and put things where we want to do.
Yeah.
So again, it's hopeful we'll see.
It strikes me, Cog, as something that was decided really early in development, because usually when you hear devs talking about concept art and how that was like, a lot of times when I've interviewed devs, I've heard them say like, this specific piece of concept art was a jumping off point for like so many of our ideas. Like they just use that as like,
Right.
and you could tell that concept art of like darkness and light in one, they were like, that is what the Final Shape needs to
No,
be. It's the
like-
Final Shape for us as characters.
Were they
right?
just going
And
to leave
so-
Prismatic to be a complete surprise then? Like, what's happening? If this was
I
already
think-
plans, why didn't they lead with it?
I think that they probably planned to tell closer to release regardless. And then when they delayed the game, they were like, all right, we'll just delay announcing that. So I think they were going to do it. But to me, it doesn't strike me as something that they like did willy-nilly. And so to E's point, I don't think it's going to take place in D3, but I think this is a test bed for in the future, post final shape, you are masters of darkness and light. You're free from the traveler. You're free from the witness. And now you've got this box where you can kind of choose the box of play toys where you can kind of pick and choose what you want. And it's a lot more mix and match and openy and RPG like. And I think that's probably what they're building to. So I wouldn't be surprised if the whole idea of like having subclasses equipped disappeared. And it was just about like picking and choosing your powers. I do have a question about the exotic before I forget, which is, do you guys think the exotic's going to take your exotic armor slot, or will it be like the class items in the last
100%.
game?
Yes, I do.
I think so.
100%.
Yes.
It has to.
And
be.
I think you made a comment on Fireteam chat. You can only use the subclass on Prismatic.
Yeah.
I don't remember if that
Yes.
was
You
you.
can use the exotic on Prismatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The exact class item
yeah.
on Prismatic, yes.
Yeah. So
I figured
and the perks are slightly
just-
nerfed as well. They're not the full perks.
Yeah,
on
they're
a lot
like
of
half
things.
and
So
It's
that
like
that
you
was
can
that
take
was my
one portion
point.
of it.
Yeah.
That was my point, and so I think there is precedent for the exotic class item not counting.
No,
right?
I
In D1 it didn't count.
I'm pretty
So-
sure it'll count. It would be
My
ridiculous
guess
if
is it would
didn't
count, but potentially maybe if I do still want to use Pyrogale gauntlets for say I don't think that's one of the supers, but maybe if you do equip something that has a very specific use case,
Mhm.
you still should be able to. It's a piece of armor. Like if you have a super or whatever it may be, sunspots related to a Titan, who knows? Something like that might still carry over. I don't know though if it truly is just like Prismatic uses these exotics and you can't use anything
Yeah.
else would feel weird. But I do feel like
Yes,
that is the
that-
one exotic you're going to get. You're not going to be able to use that
That-
class item and Pyrogale. Then it's all busted. Then you may as well
Yeah.
only use that subclass.
Yep.
That's my argument for why I think you might be able to use another exotic, because a lot of the exotics might not be applicable to the Prismatic subclass because they tend to match with specific powers, and you might not have those powers on if you're playing Prismatic. And so they almost have to create this entire new brand of exotics that cater to Prismatic, which doesn't have the same power creep issues, at least in theory, based on the exotics that are provided for it. And so I could see not all of them working perfectly. I just don't know how you cut it off from, to your point, you would have to always just use that one exotic while you're using Prismatic.
There's a lot of neutral game exotics, though. You know.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, even like
that's true.
Star
and Transversives.
One-eyed mask.
Well, like Star
Yeah,
Eater
one-eyed
Scales was literally just
Bow
buff your
Tracers,
super
Star Eater.
with Orbs of Light, and I'm like,
Yeah.
my Titan could totally use that, absolutely. But you know, it's
But now he's eating orbs of
Everything.
something else.
Orbs of power.
Orbs of
Orbs of
power.
power.
Yeah.
Orbs of
Yep.
power.
Orbs of power.
I get the question.
I this actually goes back to like what during the streams where Chris Proctor was on the second stream, and he was like, "Oh, I've actually changed positions. I'm no longer in charge of the sandbox. I'm the combat design lead." And I was like, "Oh, that's really strange. Why? What's that about?" Now we know what it's about. You know, he clearly saw this as like, "I need a raise. Like this is I'm not balancing this
For
on my
sure.
salary."
That's insane.
Also, combat design is also around the enemy factions.
Yeah,
with this,
probably.
right?
Yeah,
probably.
good point.
To me, that's the biggest thing. I know all the hardcore people are excited about Prismatic, but to me,
Yeah.
the enemy faction is the single biggest and most
Yes.
important addition
Yes.
that we're saying, because A, it hasn't happened in so long. It's so foundational to like how Destiny feels and it being fun, and it applies to every player, not just hardcore players, because even casual people realize how cool it is to have new enemies to fight. And so to me, that's like, even if you have worries about Prismatic or you think it's going to ruin the game, or you're a PvP guy who's upset, like the one thing you can't really take away from them during the stream is that they actually pulled off a full faction,
Yep.
not a reskinned kind of semi-faction.
Yep.
You can even argue that Destiny's never had a true new faction, because the Taken are kind of a
Yeah, they kind of
best
remixes.
hit.
Yeah, the Taken and
Yeah,
Scorn are both
remix.
remixes and
Yeah,
stuff.
and the
Scorn.
Scorn is a
Scorn
remix,
is a remix of the Fallen. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
and so you can kind of argue that this is the first true, like, these guys are completely
point.
new faction, and that's super cool. I think that is the biggest announcement by far, and I just wasn't expecting it. They either lied to us to make it fun,
That's
or
my
they
question, Trav.
Yeah.
I hate to interrupt because I don't want to lose my thought.
Yeah.
But my question to you and all of you is that we know we get this faction, they look amazing, we have this diverse lineup. What the hell was final shape prior to this delay?
Yeah,
Do you
that's a
think
great
this
question.
was made in the delay? That's
I
a
don't
better
think so.
question.
I don't think so.
I don't know if you
You
can
don't think
make it.
you don't think the faction was made in the delay?
I don't know how you could even, because think about this.
Because
If they had
if you
if they had
made the
if they had
entire
concepted
world,
these out, if they had made the entire world and all the levels and encounters, and they concepted out an entire faction that we know wouldn't be useful post final shape, right? Presumably the witness is like dead, and so
They'll find a way to
we're-
use them for sure.
of course they'll find a way to use it. It'll be like, oh, it's broken fractions of it, but it wouldn't
Yeah.
make sense if they introduced it
Taken War.
after
I
the
remember
final
that.
shape,
Yeah.
right? You
My-
can't introduce it after, and so I
So-
don't I think that they
Okay.
had a vision for it, and they realized at some point, probably early, that there was no way that they were going to get to do it justice unless they had more time. I think that
That
had to be what happened.
That was
Yeah,
my
no.
conspiracy theory, because the first thing that I saw, because there was that whole red subclass, I feel like they just were trying to put together the idea of Prismatic and they just couldn't nail it down. And so
Yeah.
they probably had the dread in their back pocket, because there's always been, like, I go back and I've mentioned it on the podcast before. There's the original concept art of the 5 races.
oh, the
And some
veil
people,
was one. or
and
the
there's
shadow,
and the
or- yeah.
veil is the pyramid ships, and it's kind of where the dread is now.
Mm.
So they probably just needed more time, and I think that's what it was. Is that they just were like, we're not going to nail this red subclass, which I think was probably the predecessor, and that's where they probably said, okay, let's cook. And so then they were going to wait on the reveal for the subclass, or excuse me, for the enemy faction.
Until it was
Until
when it was
It was
done.
closer, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that would make more sense, because they were still like, are we going to need more time to do that? That's just my conspiracy theory
Mhm.
about the
Mm.
dev schedule, because I mean, like, they release it in bits, right? Like, every person who does marketing knows that you can't just throw everything at the wall and say, here you go. But
Yeah.
it's clear that they've had an idea for this. Like, there was always going to be a pyramid race,
Right.
I guess, in my mind. So I think that they had it sculpted out and ready to go. And they, to be honest with you, I think they probably used more time to make that dread
Mhm.
class
Bro.
even better. Because I agree with Travis. Like, it is the first real
Real
subclass,
faction.
because
Yeah. I agree.
you're exactly right. The Taken are all just like, okay, instead of Arc, it's Solar
It's a
in their
potpourri.
hands. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's just a different skin on top of it. This is the first real. So I'm excited for that. So
My
Yeah,
speculation would just
okay.
be that, like, if you take Final Shape, you have this long linear world that we've built from the entrance to where we face ever the witness, however they described that a while ago. And if they're going through building missions and populating encounters and making strikes and doing all of this stuff, I don't imagine that all of a sudden they're like, all right, now let's populate in the delay window, like these 3 or 4 months. They're like, all right, now let's go put the dread in there and replace them for all those other enemies. I don't picture that as being a thing. I
Yeah.
feel like that whole time when they're building this out, that they have to think, hey, we're going to have a flying enemy, a gun bat, which is crazy, by the
Yeah.
way,
Come
but
back.
we're going to have a flying enemy.
You can't shoehorn in a flying bat.
No, like, yeah,
Yeah.
that has to be part of, like, how do they spawn in? Do they have certain, like, spawners? Are they higher up? Do they drop, like, the whole world has to be built around this. And I feel like that's not something they just shove in the last 3 months. I feel like this is something that was in the works. I mean, the concept art's there. You can see that that's been, now I think you guys are right. Like, hey, the
Beautiful art.
delays, can we get some more time to polish Prismatic? Can we make these enemies, like, buff out a couple rough
Yeah,
edges,
maybe
whatever?
like a couple more.
I could see the
enemy
the
types.
class exotic being one of the things that got
Now
added.
that I
Oh,
could see.
I could
that-
see that, because that's like a
that's-
question of like, okay, well, now we've built Prismatic, but how we actually make it feel good in the meta? How do we like give a tool that makes it feel like you're fusing, different disciplines together in
Yeah.
an interesting way?
Mhm. No, absolutely. And yeah, shout out to you, Ian. When you put up that art of the dread, I lost it. I was like, yo, this
Oh,
is
yeah.
the coolest.
The Avengers Assemble picture.
Yeah,
of
the
the
evil
dread.
Avengers. And
I,
then let's
I
be
honest, dude.
love that
Yeah,
picture.
good,
Wait till the expansion after the final shape, when the dread get taken, and then we got taken
Taken
dread.
dread.
Just wait for that. Wait for that, bro.
That's
You
it.
guys are
That's
gonna
it.
believe when they get added to that boy band. Oh,
This
it's
is
so
this is kind of
Listen.
the unfortunate thing for
Mhm.
being eternally online now, though. Now that they have introduced a new class, every time they don't, it's the over delivery problem,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Now
yes.
we're just gonna have to hear it, and it's like, yeah, you know what? It's like, of course, I would want a new one every time. That's not a reasonable expectation or whatever.
Mhm.
But now it's going to be 50% of our chats for
Of
the
course.
future. So thank you, Bungie, but thank you, Bungie. You know what I
Thank you.
mean? Like
Yeah.
positive and negative on that.
Yeah, they got to push themselves. And I think for me,
Yeah,
Scarrow,
no, I hope they do.
I hope they do too. I think for me, which is cool, is I think we as people who raid, like we have an affinity. I especially have an affinity for Rogue. When Rogue was introduced, we were like, this is what we're talking about, Bungie. This is a unique type of encounter and interaction with the boss. And they do it. It's like Rogue and the gang, as well as the Tormentors. They got friends now. They got a crew now. Like it really feels like Travis, you always made a good point. Like you can't have this threat with thousands of pyramid ships with just one or two enemy classes.
Or the ships were empty. Remember when I said that on this show?
Yeah.
I'm so
Facts.
glad to be wrong about that. I'm so freaking glad to be wrong.
That was
I
awesome
kind
to
of
see.
wish like this makes Lightfall even like where was this?
More
Why
egregious?
you know what I mean?
More egregious.
And it's
It
like
does.
I hate to do that. It's like kind of unfair, but also at the same time, you know, it's like why would you know
Yeah.
like that? It's such a lackluster period of time.
It makes you question like what really happened, yo.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
what really happened?
I mean,
Because
I think the rumor. No, I was just gonna say. I think all the rumors and speculation that Lightfall didn't exist until it had to exist is a thing.
Yeah.
It's that like we know
The
Final Shape
Tormentor
needs
is
to.
the perfect. Yeah, the Tormentor being in it, the fact that Strand was in it, which we know was from the Witch Queen, like
Yeah,
it really feels
it's-
like it was cobbled together about parts that they currently had on hand that were
Mhm.
ready. And yeah, I mean, it just imagine if we had none of that, and then when the Final Shape came out, the Dread was completely new. Tormentor and Subjugator also, not shown anywhere. That would have been crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That
I
would
mean,
have been
they
super
couldn't.
crazy.
They have seasons planned out to tell certain stories and stuff like that, so they had to try and find a way to stretch a lot of stuff out, and we know that. But also on the other side, it's the cinematic that goes windows close, windows open, and then we would go into
Yeah.
Final Shape as like windows close, full expansion and year of stuff, windows open, let's go into final. Like it may or may not have even needed to exist, but we got an extra
Yeah.
year for them to hopefully deliver what they wanted to deliver. That's what you can
Yeah.
cross your fingers and hope is true.
Yeah.
It is
I
very
do-
weird that we've had 2 raids on pyramid ships and neither of them have had the Dread in them. That is
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
That is weird.
I do hope they find a way to work these into. It'd be cool, like if they went back and retroactively added them to Root or something. Like I don't know if you saw they the Heroic Taken Blight public events around on any planet spawn Tormentors now as the final boss. That wasn't a thing
Really?
until this update.
Really?
So
Oh, I didn't know that.
so it's like maybe they're setting something up for that. I don't want to go crazy or anything, but I think that would be cool. Like I feel like
Yeah.
Root would feel a lot better with these versus Cabal type enemies. Like just
Agreed.
straight up.
100%.
Yeah, thematically.
They could call
lore.
it the real nightmare, the leaf of nightmare,
The Tree of
The-
Nightmares.
the tree of nightmares.
Tree of Nightmares.
So
Mm-mm-mm.
Prismatic, we all think this has been so enemies, I guess. Hold on, let me go back to the enemies because I gotta find the right article to go through this. So we have the new enemy faction called the Dread, as you guys are talking about. Now,
Yeah.
the enemies that are actually part of the Dread, Subjugators, we knew about those. Tormentors, we've had those since Lightfall. I don't know why I want to call that the wrong thing. So first one we get,
So did they.
yeah, first one we get, the Gunbat. So this is the flying enemy. First flying
What's
enemy.
its real name?
It's called a Grim. The Grim.
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 The Grim. I think they're going for. You know what this reminds me of is the insect race in the Halo series, which are also
Mhm.
gun bats, basically the ones that
Mhm.
fly around and shoot plasma pistols at you. Have a very similar feel.
Mhm.
Although those guys just pelt you with plasma pistols, and these actually have suppressing abilities,
Yes.
which is horrifying. Not only do they suppress your abilities, but they also slow you down. So that is
The sorry, I'm not a huge Halo guy, and I know that's kind of sacrilegious, but the Forerunner race, like the advanced race thing,
Mhm.
was that Bungie? Did they make that, or was that 343?
that was 343.
343.
I find that really interesting because this race has a very similar aesthetic, very blocky, orange light.
Well, Halo 4 was being worked on while it was still part of Bungie.
Okay.
And the Prometheans as a species were part
Prometheans,
of
thank
Halo
you.
lore from the very beginning. So
Okay.
I don't know if there's some inspiration there, but yeah, there definitely is some overlap in terms of like an ancient civilization that's been around for a while and has a big like, you know, geometrically shaped ship that suddenly shows up and starts messing up your day. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of overlap, but there's also just a lot of overlap with Destiny and Halo in general, both in lore and in aesthetic and gameplay, and uses parts of the same engine.
Yeah. So first flying enemy, Gunbat, Screeching, also will shoot you. The Screeching can suppress you, and they truly are. I mean, David Samuel called
First
it.
flying enemy.
Yeah.
Justice for Shanks, man. What's going on here?
No,
They're
flapping, like
I know, I'm
physically
just-
flap, like
Yeah,
I was gonna say harpies kind of fly. They
okay,
float.
fine. There are
hover.
levitating enemies by by alien
using wings.
energy.
Yeah, but
Briggs
but-
Briggs have
but-
jetpacks. That's kind of flying.
All right, Iron Man, that's fine.
Shanks-
Okay, fine. This is the first bat in the
Shanks-
game. This is officially the first bat in the game. That is
No.
confirmed.
In the
I would
Dreaming
say
City Lost
Shanks-
sectors, there are bats. You can't shoot them, but in the caves, there are bats.
True.
This is the first alien-looking bat figure in the game that can screech at you and suppress you, and also holds a gun. How's that?
Wizard.
That's pretty. I think you
Wizard.
covered it there.
Wizards.
Wizards are not
Wizards.
bats.
They
kinda
look kind of
batty.
baddish. They look batty to me.
You look kind of
yeah,
batty, but that's fine.
My point is,
Oryx!
yeah,
Oryx had wings.
Oh my
And he
god!
flew.
We don't want to
Dude.
give up to this class at all.
got him, bro.
All right,
Got him.
we're done with this.
Hey, we got him.
Oryx is a big bat. We got him. We got him.
Yo,
All right,
we got him.
Messy.
Oh, man.
So you gonna
Okay.
give credit to the OG.
He literally was a wing creature,
Was a
though.
big
Oryx,
giant
like,
bat, but
And
his-
Sabathun by extension, actually,
Oh
technically.
my god.
You're right. You're right.
Zeebo
did
Wrath's
kinda-
over
but
there
she did
like
kinda-
Zeebo
yeah,
Wrath's
that's
over
your
there
best
like
one.
what am I? Chopped liver? Like what's going on?
I don't think we've seen if Shibu has wings.
We haven't
I'm
seen
not-
Zebu. We've just
Zebu.
heard Zebu.
No, we've
Yeah.
we've seen her in the
one
the
tiny
comic.
no, we haven't seen her final form.
Yeah,
we
yeah,
saw
yeah,
the
yeah.
proto hive form.
Proto
I've seen
form,
her
yeah.
concept art in game.
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much that.
True.
Yeah.
True.
All right. So
Sorry.
there is a flying enemy of the dread race called the Grim, and they can fly like bats. They use guns, and their screeching voice will suppress you. Second one is called the Husk. They are melee bruisers, double melee weapons come at you, but even after they've been destroyed, their little rib cage is going to open up and release a Geist, which is this flying little, I don't know, traveling worm through the air thing. It's kind of like the Moth, but I'm guessing it's more of a solar damage looking thing. I don't want another like martyrdom type enemy in the game. We have one already. We don't need another. So now we have one of those.
I actually think, and I was thinking this. I keep remembering things I was thinking during the Fireteam chat. This is closer to SIVA splicers. When you shot their heads off, they had a SIVA
yeah,
bomb
those
that dragged you.
things that
I
came at
forgot
you.
about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Stands for so
But
long.
I think these guys, what are they called again?
they're the Husk.
They're the coolest one. They're sick.
Mm.
Very cool. And their swords kind of look like the other half, but they're holding
Yeah.
backward. Oh, so sick, dude.
Yeah, it's
So
dope.
cool.
Dope enemy.
I'm gonna have to go on my team Scion and say that the dynamic duo are the coolest.
The Attendants and the
Because-
Weavers are Stasis
Yep.
and Strand
Attendants and
wielders.
Weavers. Who
Mhm.
use Stasis and Strand respectively.
That's cool.
Because
like that.
I like that they ruin the one thing you always have control in Destiny, which is your positioning.
Yes.
They
They're
push.
just
going
going
to
to pull you out of a well.
And they'll pull you out of a well. They'll pull you out of that one corner that your whole team is hiding in.
Yes.
That, safe spot. I like that they're kind of going to screw with like strats and exploits and stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's always position based. It's always like, all right, everybody stand on this little platform and be in a well or behind some sort of tight
Mhm.
barricade. What do you do then? Where's your god now?
Yeah, I don't know if they talked about this, but I love how normal Scions will do the purple thing and boop you. I love how this is the opposite. Like the normal ones will knock you back. This will pull you towards. That's an awesome
That's cool.
idea. Light dark's the opposite of light type of thing.
dope.
Very cool. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
So we've
pulling
got
you toward a
those-
character, especially if you're getting pulled out. I think somebody almost got pulled off a cliff in that stream, and I was
Yep.
like, "Oh no,
Yeah.
oh no!" Those poor warlocks tapping A when they're already on their downward trajectory.
yeah,
Oh, they're going.
Fluke
Hey,
is
so
in
I'm
trouble.
going to be a hunter for Final Shape, so
Oh,
that'll
yeah.
be my...
just
Yeah,
have
I'm a
grapple
Titan,
melee on or a grapple grenade.
True.
Easy.
Oh, and you could probably get that in Prismatic. Oh,
You can.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, yes, you can.
Yeah.
I think they
Makes
did
sense.
show it. Yeah. In the
Yes.
stream.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the enemy races. Concept art's really cool. I swear I've been looking for it while we've kind of been going through this discussion. At some point, I feel like there's a concept art of a gunbat that kind of looks like a boss because it's way bigger. You know what I'm talking
literally
about?
I'm literally looking at it right now because I'm kind of going through this as we go through.
Is
Like
it in
it's about 13 minutes into it. What's her name? Miranda. It's about 14 minutes into it, maybe like 13:59. There's it's a giant version of them. Basically, they're using pyramid tech to shoot, and so the Grims look like the smaller. So I mean, there could
Is
be
this the YouTube one? Sorry, is this like
this is the what would you call it? It's the YouTube premiere or
Okay. The live stream? Yeah.
13 minutes in.
If you go to the TWAB and you just look at if you just review it, that's just what I've been having as a reference point. But you go to about 13, it's like 14:01. It's somewhere.
It's huge.
Oh yeah.
It's massive.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I was like,
one,
yeah, of
okay,
course.
yep.
They're going to make bosses of all of these enemy types. Why wouldn't they?
59. Yeah.
The raid is just going to be each one a giant version of everything. You know, a giant Grim, a giant Hush.
Yeah,
I
guarantee
bigger
you.
tormentor. Oh my God.
I guarantee you there's going to be an encounter in the raid where there are 2 bosses with 2 health bars, and they're going to be Weaver attendant themed. Of course.
Ooh,
Nice.
Why wouldn't they do dual bosses?
They got to do the thing. You know what I mean? And they become a big one.
Fusion, huh? Yeah. No, it'll probably be one of those things where, like, in a Souls game, where whichever one you kill first, the other one gets stronger. You know.
Cool. I'm gonna be so pissed if it doesn't happen because you just got my hopes up. So
I think that's a foregone conclusion because my guess is this mob was probably based off of some encounter they wanted to do in a raid. Because the raids are concepted so far before the expansions. Because they're based on ideas. I mean, we've seen them pull like old raid ideas out to give to us, and so my guess is that I don't know. I'd be really surprised if that wasn't in the game. Some sort of like duo boss fight with two health bars, and you can kind of choose to kill one before the other, and then deal with the way that other living enemy gets more powerful when their friend dies. Okay, that'd be my guess.
What are the Rolk ones, the Strand and the Stasis ones?
The Subjugators.
They're both Subjugators?
Yeah, there's a Strand and a Stasis Subjugator. They both.
Oh, I thought they had different names. Okay.
No.
Do you
wait? What? No. The Subjugator's different. You're talking about the Weaver and the.
Yeah, I was asking what the big ones are.
Oh, look. Well, here's your picture. You've got the Strand and Stasis Subjugator, and you got the Weaver and the other one. So you got 2 different types.
The Attendant. Okay.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait,
so they when they first
the Weavers and the Attendants are Subjugators?
No, they're very similar, but they're Scions. They're smaller.
Yeah, the Scions are
units.
there were Scions that were taken over for the little guys. Those are the ones that can pull you. I don't know what the big ones are going to do. They haven't really showed too much gameplay about them.
Well, they're like
chieftains.
Right?
They
showed
them
control, kind of.
Yeah. They sit in the back. This was part of the first stream. They sit purposely in the back and they just mess with you. They showed in the first stream they can suspend you and they can freeze you as well. So they're going to be kind of annoying, probably. They're definitely the chieftains. They're like, as soon as they show up, you got to get rid of them because you're just going to be really angry if you don't.
Honestly, I feel like as soon as they show up, your priority has to be to kill. I don't know, man. A lot of these feel like I bet you this is going to be an even more annoying faction than the Taken. Yeah. I bet. Because they're like pushing you and pulling you and suppressing you. Like the bats almost seem like the biggest problem because if you're suppressed, you're screwed and you can't move. Yeah. They also make you move slower.
Yeah.
Hey, if they don't teleport, I'm gonna call it as a small W though. Just don't teleport.
Or go invisible. That's an important one too.
Yeah, don't go invisible. Yeah.
Which it doesn't look like.
So question or speculation, I guess. Champions, I'm gonna claim one. I would go an Unstoppable Husk.
Yeah.
That feels kind of natural.
Yeah. Or Overload.
Yeah.
I don't know. I agree. It'll be one of the fast ones.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Shield Grim.
Barrier Grim.
Barrier Grim. The most annoying possible combo.
So it can fly. It can suppress you. Now you can't do what you need to do. Yeah.
And then it flies away as it returns its health.
God, yes. You're like, you've been suppressed, and then you've been frozen, and it's gonna fly over here and get its shield back.
Usually the champions are like the biggest, like the mega unit. So it'll probably be the not the big one, whatever you call it, the Rolt guy. I would say is probably going to be like there'll probably be
Subjugator.
Unstop Overload if I had to guess. So it's like usually the big one, like a Colossus or the Ogre or whatever, and then like one of the mid tier ones, like your Hobgoblins, your what I don't know what the other Cabal champion is off the top of my head.
Centurion?
Centurion.
The barrier one. Cabal,
Barrier.
Centurion,
Golden
yeah.
Centurion.
Centurion. Mhm.
Okay.
But yeah, the I hope that they do for champions the Weaver and Attendant again. I hope that they have.
Oh,
like,
just the two. That'd be
just the
two
two
of them. Yeah.
It's like those feel like the legionary equivalents. You know what I mean? The
I think
legionary.
you're right. I don't think they'll use them for champions at all.
Yeah,
I think it'll be.
but it'd be
because
cool.
the Subjugator is basically just a bigger version of those, so that will definitely be champion.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll do Grim, so I think it's got to be Husk, Subjugator, and then probably they'll use the Tormentor as like the third champion because it's already in the game.
It's already
They probably
basically
had time to
there.
work
Towards
Yeah.
the game, yeah.
I don't think they'll make Grims with shields or something like that. That would be nuts.
It'd be kind of fun though.
It would
It'd be fun
Prescott
until it didn't work. You know what I mean? Until
I like
something
that.
bullshit happened, like it flew off of a
Prescott
cliff
said-
while it went in shield or something like that. You know?
Unstopped Tormentor sounds fun.
They also did mention
Oh.
that in the Pale Heart, there will be special enemies that have shields that you can only break if you're transcendent.
Yep.
So, you know, they could very easily make that like there's 50 bats and you can only kill them if you're transcendent or whatever. And they're
Mhm.
just like, you know, messing with you the
I
entire
got a
time. something
question
like
for
that,
y'all.
so.
What about our favorites from the Witch Queen? Do we see any return
No.
or appearances of Hive Guardians?
No.
No.
Underutilized and apparently never come back.
Never
But
coming back?
Savathun's like on our side now. If they come back,
Yeah.
they're fighting with us. You know what
With
I mean?
us,
I
okay.
could see it on a strike. I could see it on a dungeon down the road. I don't
Yeah.
think we're gonna. I think the deep
In a
dungeon was the last
way,
straw for that.
the Lucent Hive are kind of like a preview of what these became, you know, because they're like the first ones that can use the light. And I
Yeah.
completely agree with Travis, like completely underutilized. I was really hoping to see a lot more of them, especially in Vow of the Disciple. But I mean, we got Vow was a little bit of a different vibe, but
Yeah.
I kind of feel like this is like, okay, so now they can use all the different powers. This is like the next iteration of a class that uses powers instead of just guns. Like, because if you think about it, the first four races, they didn't really use, I mean, they shot weapons, or there was like, you know, they would shoot, you know, the arc blast from the wizards or the arc from the Hive Thrall. This is the first class that can actually like use the powers with like, I suppose if you want to talk about like Helldivers, like the automatons, like they actually can use stuff. They can actually get into it. So I kind of feel like that was a first pass, and this is like a second draft on an enemy race that could do that. But yeah, I'm so disappointed we didn't see more Lucent Hive because I thought they were a great enemy type.
I'm willing to
Hopefully in
bet
the
they will be in the campaign because the campaign is like you going through the story of Destiny. So I think there will
It's
be
gonna be the
a
greatest
chapter
hits,
of
yeah.
Savathun.
Oh,
Yeah, it'll be
maybe.
a greatest hit. So I bet there will be a chapter of like, oh, remember the Lucent Hive? That was cool.
Yeah.
But I would be surprised if we saw them anywhere else aside from that.
Maybe the Hive episode because maybe
Yeah,
they'll
we
go
still have to do
Power
with
Demo.
Shivu.
Yeah.
Sure,
I
why
bet
not?
there's like a faction of the Lucent Hive that split off and worship Shivu now, and then you got to fight them or whatever. I think they're great. I love these that sort of thing. Tormentors, they're way better than champions in my opinion.
Champions can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they make
Yeah.
you think about
Replace them.
combat a lot differently, and
Yes.
I really like that.
And it's just champions are kind of like the rest of the enemies. We have had them for so long now. They're just tired.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that their answer to Lucent Hive should be, you know, darkness wielding other factions because there's nothing that
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
that means that like, you know, the Vex can't have darkness and create darkness Vex, you know what I mean, and do kind
Yeah.
of the same sort of alteration or whatever.
We
So
sort of have that with some of the Scorn they use stasis, but like I don't
Yeah.
think we've seen this.
Oh, and
class.
Taken does too. Taken Knights
Taken
do
does.
stasis
Yeah.
as well now.
and
Did the
fire.
Cabal they had strand shields, but I don't think I've seen a strand weapons.
No.
They
tell
don't
me if I'm wrong.
they don't use supers, right? They don't do the
Right.
same thing. So
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
what's to prevent like a, you know, darkness infused Cabal from doing like a strand super and going berserk on you, you know, like that. I think that is kind of they didn't they didn't need to have a faction that stole the light to use light powers because they also have the darkness. And so I think there's a way in canon to keep that idea alive and essentially replace champions, which I would love to see someday because champions annoy me. But they've almost invested too much development time into champions to go back on it now because it's like a big asset and a big part of the game. So
But yeah, I think it was just drafts because like the first champion, if you really think about it, was Scourge the Past. It was the Berserkers. That's really it was just a barrier champion that just you had to shoot the back and the front of it. So I feel like each one of these have been an iteration of a gameplay loop. And now we're actually getting
as they go. It's been 10 years.
We're getting like some cool enemies that were like I think that the Dread look amazing. So if this is where it's been coming to, and this is the impetus, and like this is the final thing, like go.
The final shape, perhaps.
Perhaps.
Ooh, la, la, la.
All right. So the second big thing that we got to try and
wait, can I ask one question that I still don't understand? In the photo you sent, going from right to left, we've got the Weaver Attendant, we've got the Grim, we've got what looks like a Husk, and then we've got the Subjugator in the middle doing the hero pose.
Subjugators in the middle. Subjugator Stasis.
We've got a Tormentor.
Yep.
And then we've got what?
The Husk on the left and the Grim is in the air.
No.
The two in the middle are Subjugators, and the two on the right are your Scion ones, your Attendant and your other one.
Yeah. But what's on the far left?
Far left with the hood.
That's the Husk.
That's the Husk.
That's the Husk, I think.
The Husk. Okay.
That's
the melee one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. I thought it was
what a beautiful looking race, dude. Jeez.
I know.
It looks so good.
For our audio listeners, make sure you go check out the Bungie.net articles and also the stream so you can see all of the wonderful visuals that we are looking at. The press kit is available for everyone. Good pictures.
For any listener, please crop what a beautiful looking race. We could get Sparrow saying that.
No,
please. Let's.
I love how they're playing.
Now
with
you need
colors.
to give it. Oh no! What you need to do is use that line, and then have you seen the clips where like, what do DJs do? And they give it to one of those DJ like TikToks. And it's like, what do It's like, what a beautiful race or something like that.
I love all the colors. They got the blue, the green, the reds, and the purples. Like it looks just visually awesome.
And let's be clear, we all give Vowit's credit for his aesthetic when they came with the pyramids. They came with that. Even the design with Rolk has and the symbolism.
Well, yeah, it all started with Rolk.
Especially the Subjugators have. They started with Rolk. And to see them expound upon it is so cool.
Yeah. You know what's gonna be sad though? I don't know if there's ever gonna be a boss as cool as Rolk, because he would just stand there smirking at you and then just kick you, which is kind of fan. He was just a bit of a badass in his own. Yeah.
Tree-like stuff, the resonance stuff. Yep. Like all of that really emanates from it. It's really cool.
I still hope one day we do get to see like more resonance. Like if they let's say hypothetically Destiny keeps going and we get a third Darkness subclass. Do we think that adds to Prismatic, or do you think we're done with single subclasses at all?
I think so. I think the future of Destiny is they introduce specific powers, and there aren't really subclasses in the way we think
just mix and match for Prismatic now.
I think that's what they're building toward, because in the future, doesn't that make sense for what the final shape is? And kind of this is like a test step for like, hey, we're going to that RPG route.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still like
call back to my initial preview guess.
I think there's room for it, but
I mean, they could put it together in like a Destiny 3, and they could use that as the new subclasses, or as the.
I don't think it's Destiny 3 though. That's where I disagree.
You think it would be coming in this expansion in Destiny 2? So another way to do it is it would be a way to kick off like whatever big, not an expansion, but an episode. But it would be, the theory would be because everything is like construction, and then one is like consciousness, like Strand is like consciousness and weaving. There's a whole other piece that they could put there if they wanted to balance it together. Just because you can mix and match powers doesn't mean that they can't come with like a whole brand new element, because that's what it really is. It's a new element.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, and it's still like we'll get into the stuff, but there's still reasons to use like a single element for specific builds and that sort of thing. So I think if you introduce like a resonance, I think you can make it work. But I'm just curious like what they would plan to do with that sort of thing. I'm really excited, and I'm talking so much and I apologize.
Let's go.
Last
love
time I
seeing
was
it.
on, I was like nerding out because I had just read the Witness lore, where the
Yes.
Witness is like
Which I finished, by the way.
very good, and
Yeah.
the Witness is like super angry because it can disassemble
Super
things.
evil.
It's super
Really?
evil. It can use the dark, but it can't put things together. It can't use the light. So I just know when we roll up and we are doing both at once. Oh, he's gonna be so mad.
Okay,
Yeah,
so Scarrow,
It
give,
is going
like
to
I
be
don't know if
fun.
Hog knows the lore, so give him one
Yeah, give me
tiny
the
one
backstory.
of the stories that he used to be like
Yeah.
how evil he was. I remember one.
Yeah.
I think you go.
the most. Oh man. So oh god, there's so many. Essentially, we find out that the Witness doesn't have to interact with anyone to chase the Traveler, right? It's doing it because it is surely just a masochist, and anything that the Traveler has touched, it just hates and wants to torture, and it wants us to essentially, at the end of all this suffering and stuff, it wants us to agree with its concept of the final shape. In saying like, hey, look at all this pain I can make you experience. You don't have to do that. You can experience the final shape, the end of everything essentially. But it's very, very. Just go read the collector's edition lore. It's great.
Gotcha.
But there's one story that really is just crazy. It sticks with me. The Witness, it became a hive mind, and then it's like roaming the galaxy. And there's another story from the perspective of another hive mind like race or species, and a specific member of this species, and it can feel the Witness come. They come in contact and they're like communicating, and then this one individual in the hive mind just starts feeling like members of its hive mind just getting destroyed and destroyed and then reformed as part of the Witness. Because that's what the Witness does. It wants to make everything its final shape, so it'll take things apart and then it tries to put them back together, but it can't do it correctly because it can't master the light. So that's why the whole aesthetic's like this blocky, like it takes it, everything's just wrong. And so this one member of this hive mind species is just feeling everything around it die, all of its friend, family, essentially itself die. And so it disconnects from the hive mind, and then the Witness is still talking to it. It's like, don't be afraid, come join me. And it's like, it is terrifying. It is a great piece of lore. I wish it was in the game, or we get some extended
I get the
video about
collector's
it.
edition. I got to
Where is
I got to
collector's
read those books.
edition? Oh, is it
I have not
like
read those yet.
Game's
Is it like
going to be
this?
Ooga Booga.
It's that. It is that.
Okay.
That is
the little
single best piece of lore in the Destiny universe. In my
the one that I
experience.
remember you talking about too, just like
MP.
briefly, was like the Witness chose to torture somebody ineffectively just to make it last longer.
Yes, yeah. It was using gravity attacks on human ships, even though it could blink us out of existence in a second with its hand. It was using inefficient attacks to break apart humanity's ships to make them realize like they're slowly dying. Rasputin ends up trying to actually sacrificing an entire. It has to shoot through a human ship to try to attack a pyramid ship, and it does this, and it kills everyone on board the human ship. Doesn't even touch the pyramid ship, doesn't damage it. And so the Witness is like playing these mind games, like making people make these impossible decisions and watching them slowly die, and making Rasputin make these sacrifices for nothing at all.
This is the enemy we're dealing with.
Yeah,
That's what we dealing with. They got to
It's-
none of
convey
that-
this.
None of it's in
that
game.
is going to be in the game.
It's
It's
going
gonna
to
be-
conveyed in the
It's
game.
going to be a cartoon character with big sparkly eyes going, "I don't like you," and that's going to be the entire story.
Man,
That's
you
where
even-
I'm setting my expectations because they just haven't shown anything, right?
Yeah.
I still don't even know what Cade's doing there.
Yeah, we got to figure
Yeah,
out a lot of stuff.
yeah.
I
Lot
really
of
hope
stuff.
the campaign gets a little extra length to it, more
That's the
cinematics.
key.
Like it's
The
gotta.
campaign.
I just want the Witness to freak out when it sees that we're using light and dark. I hope it just gets so angry. You know what I mean?
It's not going
saw
to.
a hint
It's
of
going to be
that,
very
like,
stoic and be like,
that-
"I will kill you."
well, we saw a hint of him lose control, or they lose control.
Yeah.
Because there's the part where Callus is there and Callus is just being a jerk, but then all of a sudden he kind of yells a little bit. And you
He
just get a
fractures
hint.
reality.
Yeah, it's like,
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like there's a hint there, so I'd be down for that too. That'd be really exciting.
I
you know?
want to see so much more of that. Like I want to see the Witness just start to break and bend reality. We're already in the space where reality's being misshapen and stuff. I'm really hoping as we go throughout the raid and the Witness is getting more worried and angry, that stuff just gets really psychedelic and crazy. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't know.
that's the
I don't know
hope.
how much of this lore they're going to put into the game. I hope it's all of it. But
Please.
I don't know honestly.
I
But
think the final raid is going to take place in the Cosmodrome. We're gonna get
no,
on our...
no.
Wait, hold on. Wait, let me finish my story.
It gets worse. Don't worry.
It's
We're gonna
worse.
get on our sparrows. We're gonna go to the loot cave. We're
They
gonna
already
shoot.
did this.
We're gonna shoot. No, we're gonna shoot from outside the loot cave into the loot cave. The witness is gonna be standing there, just by itself, and then we're gonna do that for like 10 hours until it dies. Community event.
Community event.
That's the post raid mission. That's the final shape
the
mission.
final shape.
So we also got this thing called a subclass called Prismatic. We've been talking about it. So with the Prismatic subclass, you've got your super energy bar that you'll build up just as you usually do with all of the ways you get your super. But below that, you've got a little bar of light and dark that slowly work towards each other. When you finally build up enough, and then if one gets full, the other one builds up faster. They said kinetic will help build kind of both of them a little slower. So it's kind of like a be-all if you need like...
Sounds like a super bar to me, Ebontis.
It's a second
super bar. Well, it's two other smaller super bars.
Small super bars that come together to make one big super bar. So Voltron, and then there you go. And when those two meet in the middle, you become transcendent. So what happens then is your grenade and melee will instantly recharge. They both recharge faster during that time. You get a specific grenade that you don't really have any other time. Hunters get the hail fire spike. And that is a stasis and solar energy that attaches to surfaces or targets and then erupts in a slowing storm. After a short duration, the device ignites, creating a deadly scorching cyclone. This one looked pretty cool in the stream. For the Titan, we've got the electrified snare, throws an explosive device or energized with strand matter and arc energy that detonates in a supercharged suspending burst. The suspended targets take heavy damage over time and chains jolting lightning to any nearby targets. So... that's the Titan one. And then the Warlock is Freezing Singularity. I think you guys got the best name. Throw a massive void energy and stasis matter. On impact, it deploys a miniature black hole orbited by a halo of slowing ice. After a short duration, the black hole implodes, suppressing and dealing heavy damage to all things nearby. So those
and you'll be able to throw at least two of those in the duration of your Transcendence.
Yeah, the Transcendence should last long enough, and if you use a grenade, your melee charges faster. Use a melee, your grenade charges faster.
Yeah.
So it's really that kind of synergy of just using your abilities really quickly during that time and doing that specific damage.
I like the idea of, just transcendence as a word, but it's temporary. Like you're transcending, but it's like you haven't transcended like cooldowns. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What? Is it real transcendence? It's like having an epiphany. It's like having an epiphany and then being like, I lost my train of thought.
Lost my thought.
Yeah, I had such a good idea. I'd almost transcended, and then I just
the word for that in Destiny is ascendant, though. They so it's like the temporary one's transcendent. Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Like you're going past or beyond it, but also not at all.
You're bestie. You are bestie.
Anywho, I wanted to ask you guys. So when the article came out, we got a little bit more of a detail because on the first day, it's like, hey, you can take this and that and combine it all together. Second day, the article comes out. There are limitations to this. Yes. So each class has specific supers, melees, grenades, and aspects that you can use. You do not have access to everything. And I honestly wanted to ask you guys, were you let down by that? Are you excited by what you see? Where are you landing on Prismatic combining a lot of things, but you get kind of only a sampling of them as opposed to the full mix?
I think it has to. And I think it's also a way for you to fix certain parts of the meta of like, oh, well, wells are everywhere. Well, you probably can't use wells in Prismatic,
you cannot.
right? So, yeah, bubble shields are everywhere. Probably not in Prismatic. So,
nope.
Yeah, exactly.
The new supers are Prismatic. So the new solar super for Warlocks, the new void one for Titan.
Without even looking it up, I was able to know which ones weren't in Prismatic, right? Because they're basically trying to course correct the meta. And I think that you have to do that because Prismatic would be 100% broken if there was literally no reason. People are still going to use solar for Warlock to get they're going to want to do that. There's probably
and the full restoration builds and stuff too, right?
Exactly. There's so many reasons to do it. And so I think this is additive, and I think if you make it all inclusive, at least this point in Destiny's life cycle, it breaks a lot. I think that'll change down the road. I think the final shape, the true final shape for us, is a bespoke RPG-like subclass builder that lets you pick and choose. But I just don't think we're anywhere near that in our current Destiny life cycle.
I feel like
just
the developers have to get into it, and I think that that's maybe what this first pass is they put all these things together saying we won't break it, and hopefully that this would be a way for PvP to sort of be, a knock on wood, balanced, because you're right, like all that stuff would be really bad. Anyway, Scarl, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, just as for like a quick recap for Travis, it's one super, one melee, one grenade, one aspect from every existing subclass. So there's like one void super for Hunter, you know what I mean? And that's how it is across the board. But there's nothing saying they won't add more in the future if they want to expand on this, right? In episodes or whatever.
I think that's what we're all kind of saying, is like it would become kind of like a Diablo-ish game.
Yeah.
Like you could choose all the different pieces from all your kits. But I think that they have to do a first pass, because otherwise, if they just threw it all the game, not only would it just be probably break everything,
It break every item in the game.
Yeah, it would just destroy everything. So this is kind of like their first pass. Again, if they're going to continue on this idea, but from a dev standpoint, it makes sense. Like just having these smaller kits. I wasn't disappointed. Just to ease question, I wasn't disappointed. I was like, this is coming. I also had I had another thing too, and I doubt this is going to be a thing. But when I first saw Prismatic, and I said, "Oh my gosh, my PvP homies," I had a theory. I had a theory that maybe the only place you can use Prismatic.
Don't do it. Don't say that.
They show PvP.
I actually think
that was my first thing. Is like maybe that's a way to balance it, and then they threw it out the window. I'm like, well, good luck PvP.
I think Prismatic
exclusive.
I actually think Prismatic may end up being irrelevant in PvP because the builds for each subclass are so deep, and I don't think it's going to be like that in the 1.0 version of Prismatic.
Well, they did change some things also, like your activations. So if something's like you get increased restoration on solar kills, in Prismatic, that changes to any elemental kills.
Correct. But there's still things like getting 2 bars full and then having to activate Transcendent and maybe do that animation and that sort of stuff that in PvP doesn't matter as much, because usually you're not living long enough to pull off balancing bars and making them hit. Like you're lucky if you can even get your super off, and that's like a lot of it is passive. And so I just think there's certain aspects in the Prismatic subclass that might end up being irrelevant or not really feasible in PvP. So I could see it totally being irrelevant, especially since they're choosing the supers that are less used, would be my guess, is the ones that are going into
part of it too is that they look to be a little bit more I hate to say that they look balanced, because they're not going to be. But they also, like, the kit it's not going to be like you can stand in a well and then shoot Bleak Watchers and do all that other stuff. I think that's exactly right. They took all the pieces from the meta, moved things around, and so the new builds that they're going to do could potentially be pared down in PvP. But I think you're right. It's the balancing of the two. Anyway,
there are some broken combinations. Like Frenzy Blade is the Strand Titan melee. You get 3 charges, but you can also use Consecration, which is the solar uppercut slam. So you'll be able to do that 3 times. The Warlock, same thing for the Warlock with their Strand melee gets 3. And then you can do the Lightning Surge, which is the one where they teleport.
Surge with the...
That stuff is not supposed to one tap, but it does if you're like next to a wall. So it's like, they'll have like because it like double hits you or something. I don't understand it. But it does one tap you quite frequently on certain maps. So it's like there's gonna be Warlocks running around there like, and it's like,
it definitely. I guess my question, which I missed, and you guys could correct me, E. Remember when the first preview of Final Shape, where it was just at that time new light subclasses.
Yep.
Where are those fitting in this whole scope?
Those are part of these, but those will be available to your subclasses too. Like Void 3.0 for the Titans, still going to be able to throw my axes, but it is an option for Prismatic because it had to be. Like they're not going to leave the new ones out of the
that's what I'm saying. So they can be included in Prismatic, the new ones.
Yeah, so Warlocks have Song of Flame, Titans have Twilight Arsenal. And then
one super from each element, right? And so for the whichever element you got new, that this expansion is going to be the one from that element that's included in Prismatic.
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Question,
Makes sense.
and I don't know if they've said it. Are they gonna just take away well in bubble? Like, are they gonna
I don't
just do
think
it?
so.
No,
You
they
don't think so?
they've talked about balancing it.
And
Talk about
We
balancing
know
it,
that
but they
there's
never
a
said that they're gonna take it away.
For me,
no.
now
there-
that the existence of Prismatic actually makes the well and bubble feel less broken because
Right.
it's now a choice. Like you're actually
Yeah.
like getting away from. Just think about if you're doing like a Grandmaster Nightfall where like your access to different elements matters a whole lot
Sure.
for shield matching and stuff.
I just didn't know if they had
Prismatic
said
is
anything yet.
Prismatic is such a boon
Oh,
for
it's way
that, and
better.
now you're now
Right.
you're gonna
I
be
was
able to now you're gonna have somebody who's like maybe I'm just the guy who only really does solar, and that's
because I'm trying
so
to
we
view
can
it from a UX UI standpoint too,
Mhm.
because obviously like you've got the prismatic subclass, but I'm trying to feel like how they would balance everything out. Like it's going to be interesting later down the road too if they
Oh, yeah.
decide to add a third darkness subclass or element, like how they would balance the UI
Yes.
and all those
Yep.
pieces. Again, that's like where I come from with things because like
Yep,
I've
me
got a
too.
background in that thing in UX UI, so it's just interesting, which is why I love the changes. But we're gonna get to that, I'm sure. That's
My
something to talk
my
about
guess
as well.
is we don't get any other subclasses until subclasses no longer exist.
Right,
Ooh,
and then it's the
right.
pick your
Yeah.
And then
choices.
it's they're introducing specific powers, and it's less
Right.
pressure to kind of
Yeah.
come up because they kind of created an unsustainable model for themselves where like when they release something they have to do it all at once. It's like, oh, here's like all this entire new power, and it has to come with guns, and it has to come with 3 different classes that
Right,
each have their own
right.
supers.
and then the
and-
verbs now too, right?
The
yeah, and
verbiage.
all of that is really
Surges.
hard. And it's like, okay, well, what if it was a tool set where maybe you could have like one new verb every once in a while,
Yeah,
every new
Be more
expansion, and then
controlled.
yeah, be more controlled. I think they're probably looking at this long term. That would be my hope anyway. And I think I gained a lot of confidence in their ability to look at the long term once I saw how they're handling episodes, and that we don't know what's happening after Final Shape right away. And it seems like they're going to take episodes as an opportunity to take more than a year to work on an expansion, which I think Lightfall proved that they do need more than a year
Yes.
to deliver an expansion. And so I would love to see them get away from annualized releases and all this pressure to like keep up with the ball that's just rolling and picking up Steam.
What
and all that. It's
expansions
just,
were delayed in like the history of Destiny? We obviously the Final Shape, obviously
Shadowkeep, Witch
Shadowkeep
Queen.
on.
Which
so
Yeah.
pretty much
keep on.
like everything, but also there was COVID in
Forsaken
there
too.
too.
Forsaken was delayed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
I think more than anything, Lightfall shows that they need more than a year, but I think Final Shape shows what happens if they have more than a year.
Right.
Yes.
If Lightfall
Yeah.
exists to give Final Shape more time, development time.
that was
And
my
think
point.
about
I would
I
rather
can't
let them have time. That's
Yeah.
the best
post
way to do it.
post Lightfall. I also can't help but think how much better Witch Queen would have been if they had time to finish Strand and
Yeah.
to finish the
Because
stuff
that was
that
trying to be in
dude,
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
should have
very
been
in
in
it. Like,
there.
dude, if they had like another year on Witch Queen,
Bro.
oh my god, that would have cooked.
Insane.
And so
Yeah.
I think that Bungie specifically not going out of their way almost to not announce what the next major thing is for Destiny,
Mhm.
and talking about how episodes are going to be longer burn and that they're going to be beefier and all that. I think it's them saying, annual releases are done for us. We're going to have a way for you to stay engaged, but we're not going to put stuff out until we're ready. And I hope I'm right, because if I'm right,
Hope so.
I think then we're going to be able to rely on Destiny being good, because we've seen time and time again when Bungie has the time to do it, even if they're backed into a corner, they can make outlandish claims like we're going to make something that's even better than Halo, and then actually for a lot of people get there, which is just insane. They're
Yeah.
such a good dev.
Anytime. E?
No, I think you guys are pretty much on it. I mean, we've talked about this probably to death at this point, but the idea
Yeah.
that you could have 6 episodes and then you might have your next expansion is something that makes perfect sense at this point, because 1 year, 3 episodes
Yeah.
doesn't ever seem like it's been enough time for everything else that's come besides what was forced. And this gives them the time that they need, probably 2 years. And this may or may not be something that they talk about, post us killing the witness, and I mean, it's also right around Summer Games Fest and game news and all that stuff. So I mean, if you're going to put game news out, it feels like it's going to be around there too. So somewhere in there, probably after we beat the raid, right before the episode starts, whether it's that Monday or they're going to be like, hey, before the episode launches on that like 2 weeks later on Tuesday morning as servers go down, as they usually do, here's our stream about what's coming for Destiny.
Yeah.
That's what I picture happening. And
Yeah.
that's probably where we're gonna get whatever news is, hey, we do have a future, but we want to take longer to cook, as Travis said, and that would not surprise me one bit at all. And it feels like
Yeah.
that's the best for them, the health, the studio. We'll see how studios do for keeping the player base around. I still, and I can't remember who the hell I was talking about this with, maybe you guys. It's just the new players.
Yeah.
It's still the idea of trying to say, hey, do you want to jump into Destiny? What do you do? Well, we're playing this episode right now. What do I do in this episode? I mean, they threw the new player experience kind of out the window. You can skip Shahan if you got buddies to have you jump in, but it's
It's not that they
also,
threw it out the window; it's that they gave up on it, kind of.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean,
Like,
It's
yeah,
a
I
lot
mean,
easier.
mandatory.
It's a lot
Yeah.
easier to get new people to commit to something that's difficult to understand if the entire community is excited about it. If everyone hates Destiny, then no one. It's like, okay, now I have to do this alone. No, everyone's talking trash about this game. I don't want to do this. But if everyone's loving Destiny constantly, it's a lot easier. That's a much lower barrier of entry, in my opinion.
The other thing is that's nice about it is that you just hop in, which is what they should have done in the first place. They were trying to use they were trying to take it from the experience in Destiny 1, like where you have like kind of your mini tutorial, which happens in all games. You know, this is how you jump, this is how you use this power, pick up this gun, switch the gun. Like that whole experience honestly just can be truncated. And like at this point, like if people still want to do that, they can. But like if you got people who just want to hop, that's one of the things about Fortnite and like some other games is you just hop in, just go. And
yeah.
I would say that even though they gave up on it, I think it's okay that they did. And I would not take anything away from them other than the fact that they should have developed more time into it earlier. But at this point, that's spilt milk.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if it's
go.
okay that they gave up on it, but I think you're correct that the place they need to go to is jump in and you play. I just think that there's a solution where it's like you jump in and you play with friends, but we still have a way to onboard you when you're not, you know, in an actual activity or
Right.
over time. Like the way that they created the goals that you have. What are those things called? Where you're leveling
Guardian
up
ranks.
the
Guardian ranks.
Guardian ranks.
Yeah, yeah.
Guardian ranks to me is like almost a replacement for a tutorial system where you
Fair,
get
yeah.
tutorialized as
I
you
mean,
do events.
that was the purpose of it too.
That
Well,
was the
part of it-
purpose, but I don't think it accomplishes that. I think
I
it
agree.
ends up being
Right.
more confusing and less helpful to, and then the fact that it resets, so there's no real depth of like how
Right.
much you're understanding Destiny.
Well, part
and
of it
getting
is
into the,
it's weird
yeah.
because there's a combat system and it's layered on top of that is the social system and all of the different pieces that you work on, and it's built up over time. And for us, like we can speak about it, like we know who Shahan is. Like we can just like, oh yeah, it's Shahan. It's like, oh yeah, the girl with the bird, you know, Hawthorne. Remember her? Like we can't even like we don't even. That's the other thing is like if you're like a person who had never played Red War campaign, you don't know who she is. There's nothing there. Like she's just bird lady. But all I was trying to say is like I'm okay with just being able to hop in. The more they can make the experience easier, the better. And I hope that whatever they do for whatever is coming next, I don't want them to give up on the new player experience, but they just need to make it shorter. Make it like a tiny mission, be done. Like because they were trying to do the social game, like you got to go to the tower and then talk all these people, then go back to talk to Shahan. It was just too much. So I hope that they just make it shorter, so people can hop in.
Yeah, I think the end state it has to be that a friend says, "Hey, I'm going to try to convince you to make the worst
Yes.
decision in your life and play Destiny," and then they're able to just hop on and immediately jump into whatever activity is hot at that point in time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, did want to ask you guys class item. So it sounds like it will be randomly rolled. We don't know where it's going. We don't know where it's going to be coming from. What resource, how frequently you can get a new exotic roll, but being as it is a whole bunch of exotic rolls, seemingly just taking two exotics, putting them together, and you can get exotic perks from other classes. As we said, you can get Star Eater Scales and Ophidian Aspects on the Titan. That's Hunter and Warlock stuff. Now, it doesn't seem to be the full exotic perk. Like Ophidian Aspect did seem to be faster weapon readiness. It wasn't faster weapon readiness and reload and the other stuff.
It wasn't reload. It was just readiness. I saw it. Yeah.
So it's part of it. So it won't be the full aspect, but even partial exotics kind of across the board will give this, you know, if there are weak points to the prismatic subclass, I feel like this is where you're going to get that balancing side of bringing the power of that up when you find that right build, or you might find one that's like, this might be something, and then you can kind of experiment and see. I'm just kind of curious. How often do you guys think we're going to be able to get these? Do you think this is grind it to your heart's content? Is this like a farming? Is this like get it from a certain encounter. Like you can get 3 a
Farming.
week or something.
Definitely
Farming.
I bet you could take
Farming.
an exotic engram, walk right up to Rahul and roll one, just like every other exotic in the game.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
Oh, you think they all?
But you're not picking it though. You mean like just
No, you can
could
focus
decrypt
specific
it, it could
exotics.
be.
Or you can focus specific exotics at Rahul, or at least what campaign they came from or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd never do that. I always open them randomly, but I would wager you could just walk up and do that. I don't know why they would treat this
You're saying
differently
that
than any
specific exotic, or you're saying exotics from the final shape, and it could be that? Because I would agree with that, but I don't. know if it's
whatever
gonna be
the
as easy
current
as-
system is for other exotics, it'll be the exact same. I would say.
Didn't they say that you were gonna farm it once you found the secrets? I could have sworn they.
I mean,
said
you're
something about
you're
that.
farming for it, right? Like it's a randomly rolled exotics. It's the same way you farm for any other exotic in the game. You play the game, you get one with better stats.
And most likely tie it to whatever the new seasonal activity is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that would be the way to do it. Is that you can only earn those prismatic? I don't know. They're not going to make a whole new engram for it, so I'm just trying to figure out like
Definitely
the
not.
best way to do it.
I bet
trying to
you.
go
I bet
through
you
it
it's
now.
gonna be like. I think it's gonna be like the thing that they dangle over us in lieu of crappy materials that nobody cares about. Like, oh, you want to do Grandmaster? Well, this week it's
Right.
gonna have 3-time drop rate for people who do this activity. Or oh, if you go flawless in trials this weekend, it's gonna be 5 times more likely that you get this exotic. I think they'll probably use it as the ultimate carrot, because it strikes me as something they designed specifically for the most hardcore players, which, let's be frank, they're the only ones who are going to give a crap about this thing. And I think they're just going to be like, hardcore players, here's your evergreen thing to always hunt for, because we're always going to be introducing new exotics, and they're going to get entered into this pool, and now you can add them to the prismatic option. It's going to be crazy.
It's also, they did mention Azure rework as well. So
Really?
Yeah, they mentioned that a while ago. I do.
well, a
remember.
long time ago,
It's
Joe.
been
Joe
a
did.
while, yeah.
So I mean,
God, I hope that doesn't mean I'm gonna have to start writing weekly Zero articles again.
He's back.
That was
Let
the
Fallout do it.
nightmare of my life.
I was like, I gave up on that.
Give
Fallout does
life.
it in 60 seconds.
let Fallout
and
do it.
I'm always so surprised. Like every time I check the numbers on those videos and stuff, it's like, how did so many people care about this? Like, are you serious? Like, it's
Yeah,
good for.
Newer
When
players did
IGN
it
was
more.
doing it, you know why it is because it was like one of the first weekly rituals in a live service game ever. And it has like historical clout. Like even people who don't play Destiny for a while, there's like a excitement of like, oh, it's a Friday morning ritual, and you go and you see what's new at Zur. And so, I mean, it's a big deal if IGN is making me write about it every week. And I was like, apparently they were doing well enough, because I did it for like a year.
Isn't there a part in American Dad where the alien is playing Destiny 2 and says, you need to have strange coins? And he's the German guy, right? So he's like, you need to go to Zur and buy the rocket launch. And he like actually talks about it.
That's good.
I don't know what exotics was, but he specifically talks about that. So, I mean, it's meta.
It made it there. So yeah, it's
made it.
something.
We made it, boys.
That's kind of amazing.
That's funny.
Yeah. Well, the other main kind of thing that we have going on is this thing called Into the Light.
There's so much, man. This is crazy.
Oh God, I
It's
can't
been
believe we haven't even talked about that.
We just now get into like, wow.
Yeah. Now,
This is the day.
we don't have to go fully in depth on Onslaught, but I do want to get your guys' thoughts after
Save it for
playing
next week.
Just quick, 30,000. So, okay, how about this? Onslaught, thumbs up, mid, thumbs down.
It's very fun. I hope it's the framework for more in-depth horde modes in the future.
Gambit
Yeah.
4.0.
Yeah, get rid of Gambit. Make
They-
this the seasonal activity or the ritual
They
activity.
should.
that, man.
I agree that
I'm
they
like-
should expand on it. I think that as now it's pretty mid though. I played it a couple times and I was like, I don't feel like I need to play it again.
I love it.
They do need to make it so that if you get a 50 wave, if you get on
talk-
legend mode and 50, like you need to get one of the gold brave
you need to
weapons.
give me a shiny,
Period.
bro.
Don't increase the drop rates other than
No,
that, though.
Increase the drop rate. At
No.
minimum.
Come
on,
No.
I did a
one
50,
guaranteed.
and you said
one
thanks
guaranteed.
and gave me the regular joint at the end of 50.
One
you guys-
guaranteed.
you guys-
one guaranteed for
yeah,
at the
you
end
guys
of
aren't
at the
listening
end
to
of
each other.
50.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
he's agreeing with you, Cog.
Oh,
yes,
my bad.
Yes.
no
Yeah.
increase.
He's saying not other than that. Not
Oh,
other
okay,
than
gotcha.
that.
yes,
Saying
yeah.
that the carrot at the end of the 50 is you get the gold guaranteed. So like people are like, let's get together, let's do this. I think that's exactly right. I think if you buff it from random sources, it takes away from that.
Oh no, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing, because I saw some people on Twitter being like, we need to buff the drop rate for everything, and Data was like, no, don't. Someone was like, dude, just like the hardest activity of Onslaught, you should get one. And it should be like that. Also gives you a little bit more incentive to unlock and attune the different weapons.
Right.
So then you can be like, okay, I want my Edge Transit, and then you, like, I got to get to 50.
Shout out
Let's
to
cook.
Edge Transit right now, yo. Edge Transit's kind of lit.
It's the best one.
Bro,
It
Edge
is
Transit
F1.
is not even a meme anymore. Like, it is a
Yeah.
thing. The bait and switch, they had to shut us down. Legos in the chat. They had to shut us down. They shut us our Cascade
Kalinsky
point.
said
They
no.
They shut us down, boy. Come
Because
outside.
Nighthawk tweeted, "Is like we should get one guaranteed," and Josh Kalinsky just replied with, "Mm-mm."
Oh,
I
wait,
like it.
really?
"Yeah,
Oh, you shut it down?
yeah." That reply
what down?
is to if you go to that
That
reply.
is actually pretty classic. He's just like, no.
No,
He said no.
And
Hilarious.
John Candy and what is that?
What?
Is that Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
it's got to be with
Gotta be.
yeah,
The
it's gotta be
meme?
what it is. Yeah.
Yes.
But I do respect that the
Yeah.
devs are standing their grounds on this, though. Like,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
we want something rare. I hope this is indication in the future we're gonna have more things like this. But I do have to respect that they're like, no, we actually
Wow, he
really
said
want these
no,
to be
man.
rare.
That was the thing that made Destiny so fun back in Destiny 1. It's like
Yeah.
when you got Gallarhorn, when you got
You felt
Icebreaker
it.
from an Engram,
You're right.
oh my lord. It was
You're right.
so, like, it was hype.
I would
It was
argue
so
the
huge.
thing that made Destiny fun was not the insane lengths you had to go through to get a simple drop. It was the unknown quantity.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
we
Yes.
didn't know what live service games were. Not everything was data mined ahead of time, so we knew what
Right.
every exotic was going to
We
be
don't
like
have
and
like a
exactly how to get
seasonal
it.
article explaining every exotic
Yeah.
we're gonna get right
Right.
before it all comes out. Like
There was just a lot of mystery.
yep.
that
Yeah.
was the
people
cool part.
searching in the API.
Mhm. Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, PC blames that one. I'll take the.
Yeah,
Yep.
no, I'll jump in. Yeah, I'll listen. I'm a sucker for horde modes. I've been loving horde modes since Gears, and I think, listen, is it the most intricate? No, right? But I will say this: investing into the sweeper bot into a Shax thing can literally gain a lot of aggro and help the tide in some difficult encounters. I do like when the Briggs come. I do like when the Tormentors come. They got a little change of pace when you go in the room. You do
I saw a funny
rift
thing from Tassie. He was like, he said, "Rise up." What is it, like trip mine game or
Tripmine?
something?
No.
And then,
Yeah.
and then he was like, "I got shamed. Apparently now I'm on decoy team or something." And I was like,
Yeah,
"That sounds
decoy
better."
team
Okay.
is what it
That's
is.
like the
man.
most classic Paul Tassi take I think I've ever heard in my entire life.
I tried trip mines and I was like, these suck.
I was like, I don't. They don't. What,
don't
what's
they
the
only blow
point?
up twice per round or something like that? Like it's
Or
like
is it-
such
there's
a
probably
small
only
amount.
twice if there's two beams. Like you do one, and it's
Yeah.
like, what do you
Yeah.
like?
What are you even
Guns
doing?
first,
And
and then
and it's
decoys.
all
like the other.
and it's always like
No
a
decoys
sheep that
first.
walks
I'm
into it.
team decoy and then turret.
Yeah.
For sure.
Agreed. Yeah, trip
of
mines
course
always.
decoys. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I would love if they had like a health indicator on some of these things.
I
so
do want
know-
health indicators on like
Yeah.
because there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
How are you okay? Do I need to stay near
Mhm.
you? Kind of like
And I wish you could spend fewer resources to repair them.
yes.
So
Yes.
they
See, this
stay up
is
as
what
well.
I said like an episode or two ago. This feels like horde mode for Destiny,
Yeah.
beta mode. Like this is
Yeah,
beta.
exactly.
because
It is
100%.
extremely beta mode, and that is
Yeah.
why I kind of bounced off of it after like 3 runs. I was like, first of all, I don't care about getting the same 5 weapons 80 times. I just cannot bring myself to care about that, no matter how much I try. Even if the rolls are so much better, it's just like, dude, there's nothing you need them for in Destiny. Nothing's hard in this game. So I just
weapon-
can't bring myself
yeah.
to care about it. But I will say I think it's a great basis for them to develop into a more full-fledged 4th pillar. I'm not necessarily calling for the head of Gambit, but it'd be nice to have like a maybe 4th pillar there.
Get rid of
And
Gambit.
go for
Actually,
it.
I am calling for the head of Gambit. Goodbye.
I mean,
we'll be
look,
seeing ya.
I will never stand in the way of the bullet for Gambit. I would say, yeah,
You'll
probably
never
had
take
it
a bullet.
coming. Yeah,
That is the episode's
but,
quote. Travis will not stand in the way
Stand
of the
in the
bullet.
way
but I
of
will
bullet.
say
Coming towards
it is the only other PvP mode, and as a former PvP main, I must say,
Mhm.
you know, he is my brother. I may not like him, but he is my brother.
Like him, but he's
Technically
family.
Gambit. He's family.
Listen, I got you.
PvP adjacent.
He's toxic.
He's
You
toxic.
know, he's
but he's
been
family.
in prison a couple
Talking-
times.
He's drunk
gets a
all the
little
time.
mouthy
He
when-
has substance
yeah.
abuse problems. I got to take him to his AA
Yeah.
meetings. Like, we got issues.
He's not a good guy, but look, that's my brother.
That's my
That is
bro.
my brother there
That's
you're
my
talking
family.
about.
Yeah,
Okay, he's
just to-
blood.
Just to finish, look, like I said, I think I've fallen in love with these activities that I could consider like these Iron Man endurance things, right? I think they kind of debuted it with the coil, where it's like, okay, just keep going. It gets progressively harder. It gets progressively harder. And now after round 30, the white mechanic go to orbit. I've always liked that pressure. I played with some blueberries, and we made it happen. We were running ARC, and I was like, we were saving each other. We had clutch, saves during the whole thing, and I thought that was fun. I know Travis is not a weapon guy, but I'm the weapon guy. I think the weapons are really cool. I was very surprised by LC's rifle. I think it has tremendous potential in PvP. Also, I've
recoil pattern's a bit squirrely. I need to put that
a little squirrely, but I got a destabilizing round and repulsive place one that's kind of
for
impressive.
PvE. That would be one to test. I'm actually curious how that would be at range.
Very impressed with Edge Transit. It was a joke, a meme for all its existence. I've been loving that. Recluse, I'm not there yet with Master of His Own. I'm like, it's okay.
No, the one that I want for Recluse is the destabilizing a repulsor, just to see how that would work for like ad clearing. Because the ad Master at Arms at like 15%, it doesn't feel as
almost frenzy and desperate measures.
I would get a desperate measures roll for when Prismatic comes out, because it's got that synergy with your guns and your abilities, and it's like a constant 30% uptime or something.
Yeah,
so
I haven't
it's
even
like
seen that on there yet.
And what I love about all the weapons is the origin trait. Because if you run a light subclass and you're getting grenade energy back, you can make some sick builds. And I never had a good succession with reconstruction, recombination, so I'm very happy now. But
once again, that origin trait plays right into Prismatic as well, too.
Yes,
because it'll do both.
Yeah.
Yep, it's
you
true.
know?
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's my early review on the choice. I didn't get the sword yet, so we'll see how that goes. Anybody got the sword?
I knocked out the
sword's okay.
I knocked out the focusing quests. They weren't that bad. The Recluse one feels
took a long time.
Recluse was the long one. It was like 400 kills. Everything else was like 100 or something like that.
Like I literally
Ustriga.
I just literally
I heard somebody said
killed 50
Ustriga.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just honestly, like just go into PvP and kill 50 people with the multi.
50 is easy.
50 is way easier. Like that's what it was for me. Everyone was just using Recluse to focus it. On the sword, I don't know why, but like a tweet that I did got like a lot of traction because I was just like, it's bait and switch and Vorpal weapon. It was like, oh, this is interesting. Do these stack? Okay. And like, I don't know why, but people just ran with it. And like people were saying it was like, I was saying it's like best damage. It's like, no, it's just an interesting role. That's all it is. Because I think, I still think it's going to be Edge Transit. I think that's going to be the play.
Bro, Edge is the boy. It got me not using Cataphract for a little bit. I'm like, damn, Edge Transit is kind of good right now.
Yeah, I got an auto-loading bait and switch Edge Transit, so I feel like that'll be, decent DPS at least. Grenades, you can get up to like 30 in a grenade launcher if you hit like the armor with the reserves and switch over before you hit the rally flag kind of thing. Like that's a nice way to do it.
I think it's safe to say that grenade launchers are back. Right?
If the boss is big enough, if I have to fire at somebody like Kali or like a baby Scion boss or something, probably not a grenade launcher. But if it's a big chunky guy, yeah, I got a big enough target, I can hit the broadside of a barn. So.
Talk about what's back. The Whisper with field prep. You can shoot like 40 bullets without reloading. It's absurd. It is like actually stupid. Whisper already had some of the best total damage out of any gun in the game. And it's
I think Whisper doesn't. I had a buddy of mine doing some damage testing. I think it is best
total damage. I believe technically bipod rocket is. I could be very wrong on that, but I think
I'll have him check. I don't know if he checked bipod rockets, but it's up there. It's like top 3 at least.
Yeah, it's very powerful.
And if you've got an enemy, like if you think about, they're bringing Riven back with Pantheon. Again, we could keep going.
We'll get to it.
But like I'm just thinking about like Riven in the boss fight. Whisper is perfect for that boss fight.
Yeah,
and like shooting her mouth and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's gonna be really good. So get through Whispers, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
I'm so excited. Oh,
speaking of
that
which,
takes me straight into Pantheon. Yeah, I was waiting to bring this topic up, so we're here.
We're there.
Look at that. There's this thing called Raid Gauntlet, and due to data mining and other things that people digging through the API, most of this is out there. Scarrow even made a video on leaks. He's a leaker now. He's a leaker. Scarrow's
nope. Bungie could hide it if they wanted to. It's their fault. Okay.
Bungie is now to blame. So Scaro says, "Sure, I'll make a video and make
What a
some."
victim blamer, Scaro.
I'll gaslight Bungie all day
It's-
long. I don't need
look-
to care.
look
You know,
at how
you know
the-
how much trauma I have in my life because of
Scaro,
because of
Scaro,
Bungie.
why are
Like,
Scaro's like, look at how Bungie's code was dressed, bro. Like, I was just asking to get mine, bro. It's crazy,
Oh
dude.
my God.
I'm
These are the.
Wow,
this is where
Scaro.
Travis.
Not-
What a victim blamer Scaro is, dude.
They
I
they have
wasn't
talked
expecting
about
that
before.
today.
They have had
Damn.
engineers before talk about how they could go through and hide things, and they choose not to. That's not. And if they're gonna put something
chose
in the
not
game
to.
that is explicitly for players like myself, and
Are
they
you
release.
saying? Are you
Nope,
saying that
nope,
they were
no, I'm not. I'm
asking
gonna leave the
for
call, dude.
this
I'm
to
not, I'm
happen?
not. I'm not.
You're gonna leave the call. The podcast will be off before you leave. Don't worry. Broadcast ended.
Love it.
Travis
but
flirts with my monetization status on a weekly basis, and today this is that moment. Thank you, sir. All right, Scaro, I got to take this one to you first. So,
Yeah.
Pantheon. At this point, I'm gonna say, as we are this far into the podcast, if you made it this far and you want to hear what may or may not be in Pantheon, you can stay. We love to have you finish the episode. If you do want to bail now, we may cover a little bit of spoilers if you want to be surprised. So, fair warning: like, subscribe, follow all the amazing people. Scaro, take it away. You can talk about everything at this point because all cards are on the table.
Cool. So Pantheon it starts April 30th, and there are 4 weeks of Pantheon essentially, and it seems like it might be sunset going into the final shape. We don't really know. We don't have confirmation, but on the roadmap for Bungie, it does say it ends June 3rd.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It may
Every
be
time
you had to be there, kind of thing.
Yeah, potentially. Essentially, what this is, there's a list of 8 raid bosses. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but there's a certain order, and every week you have to do increasing amounts of them at a lower light. So some of the bosses are. I can try to find the list real quick, but
I know I'm looking for it.
Essentially there's 8 bosses. Week 1 you have to do the first 4 at 5 under. Week 2 you have to do the first 5 at 10 under. Week 3 you have to do the first 7, 6 at 15 under, and then the final week you do all 8 in order 20 under, which is contest mode.
Which is contest mode. Yeah.
Every single time you complete one of those, you get one of the coolest emblems ever.
They are sick.
They're really cool.
All 4 of them are incredible. There's a title that is what I consider to be easily the coolest title ever. It's called Godslayer, which is ridiculous. It seems like it'll also be one of it seems like it'll be a genuinely hard title to get, which we have not had in a very long time, which I personally appreciate. It looks like these raids not only will drop the adept versions of their weapons, but it'll also drop the raid exotics from some of these raids. And it seems like there's quests and stuff, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to pick or if it drops. We don't really have that information. There's unique modifiers for some of this where you're either extra empowered or extra nerfed or whatever, and it just seems like it's going to be a time to go get your best friends that are the best, not in terms of like quality of friendship, but quality of gameplay. Who can play the game, who has thumbs,
Who's actually good.
squad together, and just go for it. And it looks genuinely really awesome, and it looks like it's going to be hard. I hope it's not time gated. I hope they build upon this sort of idea in the future as well. There's plenty of raids that they don't. The raid bosses I remember: Explicator, Riven, Atrax, Rolk, Nezarec, Golgoroth, Caretaker.
Wait, so
and
Golgoroth is in there?
Golgoroth's the very first one. And then did I say Explicator?
Golgoroth,
No, I'm trying to think of the
Caretaker,
last one.
Zoraric,
Nezarec.
Ron,
Nezi's the last one.
Yeah. In order, this hairy person put it. It's
Yes.
Golgoroth, Caretaker, Ron. Third boss was his Zoraric.
Explicator.
Atrax, the Explicator. Atrax 1, Oryx, Rolk, Riven, Nezarec.
Yeah. And so Riven, it's the second to last one. You only do it on the final one, which is contest mode. So it'll be contest, Riven, and then Nezarec, which is going to be ridiculous.
Yeah, that'd be nuts.
There's another aspect to this where they added like a strike scoring type of deal where it looks like you get more points based off of how quickly you finish it and that sort of thing. That's part of the seal as well. It might determine quality of rewards. We don't really know. But this just looks like an insane gauntlet with unique modifiers and some of the coolest rewards that, this is one of the things everyone's going to say, like, oh, it should give you unique armor and weapons and stuff. But I think, like, as a person who's like a true endgame player, I think cosmetics are the best thing you could do. It doesn't throw off the balance of the game, and I get to flex on some blueberries, which is sick. So it's like, I'm excited for it. Plus, I get to walk around as Scarrow 9 Godslayer, which is like, come on,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
I'm waiting for the title God. That way, I can do that. I can do that monkey puppet look at you.
It looks awesome. We don't know if you'll have to do Riven legit. What I will say is, leading up to this, in the raids that are currently in the game that we know, like the encounters that we know are going to be part of this, there have been some small changes. Rolk, like I've been doing solo run for the last month. I know, or not Rolk, Nezrak. I know that encounter inside and out. It seems like his tracky things are way more aggressive than they used to be. Golgoroth, it seems like 2 people now get the light debuff.
The light debuff.
And there's all sorts of like little things that either there's some weird netcode stuff going on, or they're making slight changes to these encounters to make them less cheesable, maybe a little bit more difficult.
Legit Riven.
Whoa.
Man, hopefully that's what I'm saying.
I don't care. Like, it is I love Rolk and I love Nezrak. But legit Riven is the best fight in the game. It's the best fight in the game. I'm sorry. It just
not even in the game, in the
so
franchise.
In the franchise, it's so good. It's just when you play it, you get done, you just feel so good.
I remember watching that
doing it.
Yep. So I'm super excited. I think this is the best part of Into the Light by far. And it looks like they knocked out the rewards out of the park. Looks like they knocked everything out of the park. I'm not really a big fan of the staggered 4 weeks thing, and I hope it doesn't get sunset. But other than that, like,
it will get sunset.
You think it will be?
There's no way they're gonna let this tread on the release of the final shape.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe it's like a temporary thing. Maybe they'll like launch a new
I can see them bringing it back for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be there June 4th. 0% chance.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
But that would mean like what would be the last week that or would it be like 2 weeks that you could do it all 8 bosses, because it's like time gated, right?
Yeah.
So so it's April 4th, and then the next 4 weeks. Let me pull up a calendar. April 30th. I don't know what I just said. And then the next 4 weeks, 7th, 14th, 20th, 28th. You literally have 1 week. You have 1 week.
1 week.
Yeah.
Boy, I mean, if you want to make something rare and flex.
Yeah.
That's what you do.
I'm so excited. It's gonna be like, I'm going gremlin mode. You know what I mean? I'm not leaving until I have that emblem, and until I have that title. It's gonna be sick. I'm so excited. So
this is cool, man.
And contest mode too. Like they're doing it. And I have a theory, and I don't know if this is true, but this feels very Prismatic like to me, where similar to Prismatic, where it simplifies it so they can just bring back certain parts of subclasses or make certain subclasses. Seems like something like Pantheon would make it a lot easier for them to bring back specific parts of past raids that people really liked, without wasting time making the parts of the raids that were kind of lame. So forget the first 2 encounters of Crown of Sorrow. Bring back the 2 bosses that people liked. Forget the first half of Eater of Worlds. Just bring back Argos. You know what I mean? Obviously, I don't know, but this seems like it could definitely streamline that process a little bit. And I hope they expand on it. Just like Onslaught, I hope this is like kind of the beta version of something going forward. This is something we've needed in the game for a decade, and I love that it's here.
Boss rush mode? Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Horde mode, and a boss rush in the same like mini free expansion is ridiculous. So I'm here for it.
Hopefully one of them is more cooked than the other. That's my hope.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, based off of the rewards, it does seem that they kind of cooked with Pantheon. So.
I mean, it's kind of hard to screw that up because they're all already built encounters that we know work, So I have no problem believing it's going to be good. But love me a good boss rush. You guys ever play Fury?
I've never heard of it.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know if that's one I played. I played one.
Good movie.
Different. Yeah.
Fury with an I or a Y?
I think I is the game.
Yeah,
it's
the
the
game. You guys should play it. It's a boss rush game where you just fight bosses the whole game.
What
Hell
did
yeah.
I play?
Oh,
I
it's like Cuphead then, right? Like
Yeah,
like that
well,
sort of thing.
yeah, Cuphead's got they added side scrolling levels, but yeah,
Oh,
Cuphead was
okay.
originally supposed to be a boss rush only game.
Or like Hollow Knight, that's like that too.
Hollow Knight is also a platformer.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry,
This is a game where you literally just go boss, 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 boss. That's the entire game.
There was
Yeah.
another one I played like that, and I can't remember the name of it because there was no other enemies to fight. It was just wander around, find a boss, wander around, find a boss.
Part of, like, the
Elden
Mega
Ring.
Man game. It was like the best part of the Mega Man games. Like when you got
Oh,
to the
yeah,
end,
I
you had
mean,
boss rush at the
that's-
end
Yeah.
before Dr. Wily.
Nice.
Dr. Wily's
Nice.
castle. Yep, absolutely 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
That's I'm so
I
excited.
think boss rushes are really underrated because I feel like we should make more of them because they
Well,
get
like-
to the part that are like the most fun. And
Well, like
it's
one
just
of my
like,
buddies
just get straight to
jokes
it.
because he didn't really want to play Elden Ring, but he's actually a really big fan of Souls, which is kind of sad to miss out on Elden Ring, but he just doesn't like the Skyrim open world exploring BS of that type of stuff. And I was like, you just want a hallway, boss, 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 boss. He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, somebody should make that game because I feel like there's an audience for it.
There's
just-
a bunch of games like that. They're called Boss Rush, and Fury is the most recent example of like one that's great. But that one, literally, there's no other gameplay. In fact, you can put down the controller after each boss fight and just let yourself experience the story, and then the next boss fight happens. That's it. Whole game. Great game.
Pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, man. Excited. You know, as a person who loves raiding, you know, this is something that I know me and Attic have always talked about. Wouldn't it be cool if Bungie allowed you to do something like this? I love the idea of it. I am confused though because I thought it was all D2 assets, but then you're telling me Taken King stuff is in here. So I'm
Oryx is in D2.
Yeah,
Crota's in
Baseball is
D2.
in the game.
But I'm not seeing Atheon. I'm not seeing that on the list.
No,
I'm not,
no.
Yeah,
The only Destiny one is Golgoroth, I think.
Yeah.
No, Oryx
that's
isn't.
what
No, Oryx is in there too. Oryx is in there.
Oryx
too,
is
for
in
sure,
there,
for
so I'm
sure.
confused. I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
why is he in there? If
Well,
this is supposed to be
well,
all
Because
D2
Vogue is
I think I'm
overrated.
mad.
Yeah, no
think-
one likes
I think-
Fog.
Fog is
And like-
overrated.
Stop.
Fog is
He's
overrated.
overrated.
That's
Fog.
why.
Fog.
That's
It could
I
be
do-
this.
I
It
do
could be
think
kind
that
of
they.
like- Go ahead.
Yeah, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I'll finish my part in a minute.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
man.
was just gonna say to Scarrow's point, if they wanted to make it a thing that they could use, like say for example, you've got the new raid, right? And you got the new
Mhm.
bosses and stuff like that. A good way to have people who want a high-end activity, but they don't want to go back and do the old raids again, you know, for the sixth time in 6 years, is that you just update the boss rush. And I think Scarrow was talking about that. Just why not just update it?
Yeah, that's probably the reason
Yeah.
Crota's not in there because it's the latest raid, and they're like, "Hey,
The
go
latest
do
raid.
Crota."
Mm.
Plus, like,
maybe Atheon
like,
will cycle in.
yeah. Well, hopefully not, but
I think what
Hey,
Ian and I
watch
were
yourself.
saying last week. What Ian and I were saying last week, Cog, is that they weren't going to add any boss fights that weren't already currently playable in the game right now
Correct.
to
Right.
this mode. Right? They weren't going to bring back like Callous
And
boss
they just
fight,
know
out of the
Atheon
original
stands there and
D2
he's
raid,
boring. so-
anything like that.
Right.
It was just going to be like stuff you can play right now.
That's
They're just
right
going to
now.
put it in a
Yeah.
form.
Yeah,
that
you guys
goes
are
back
right
to
on
that.
that. You guys.
I
are
would
right on
love in the future if they did use it as like a flashback thing for
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be a
That'd be
cool way
great.
to do it. And, and like if you for some reason need to sunset raids, I don't like say for example, it'd be cool. I know my buddy Dark Flame would be just like in love if they brought the Leviathan or the Callous boss fight
the
back.
Callous. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
And-
think
I mean, just
friendships are
because
going to
he-
be broken by this.
it
edition.
seems real difficult, man. Like I
Yeah.
think people.
Friendships are going to be broken. Can you imagine being pissed off at the guy who forgot the mechanic on like the 7th boss? You know,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
We don't
it's
know.
like losing 2 hours. Like
It doesn't
dude.
actually look like it kicks you to orbit, though. I thought originally it might, but
Oh, really? Okay.
in the API, it doesn't look like there's an extinguish modifier. But it does look like you get, you know, the title and stuff based off of how long it takes you to complete it. You get more score. So
Oh,
you
interesting.
know, maybe
okay.
the longer you stay in there, you get fewer rewards or you know less progress towards the title or whatever. That's stuff that you can't really tell with API strings, and Bungie hasn't talked about yet. So
Each encounter has a bonus timer. You earn additional points while the timer is active. Finish the encounter before the timer runs out for additional score.
Mhm.
Completing encounters and completing encounters with a high score grant rewards. So that I guess you just use that to get more of your adept or other drops from it. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it would be required for a seal or anything else like
Yeah.
that, but maybe it would be. Like that would be nuts though.
Yeah. But the reality is 8 bosses on contest mode in one sitting is pretty. You know, will this have checkpoints? So we actually don't know.
Yeah.
But is pretty That's pretty crazy, you know.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about like a raid on Conquests, you have to usually do 2 or 3 bosses in one sitting, or not in a day or two. And so like 8 is a lot, especially bosses like Riven and stuff that are
Oh yeah.
pretty beefy and tanky. You're gonna have to optimize a lot of your damage and stuff.
You know, I think this is the best thing because I think even Travis said it, and I know Salt, I talked to him as well, and like they keep talking about bringing challenge back to Destiny. I mean, this is perfect.
Yeah.
And not everyone will be able to do it. And I know some people might say that that's exclusive, but
perfect.
that's maybe a good thing for some.
Yeah.
And I know some people are going to want to, oh, I couldn't get that. But at the same point, if you make it like this is the hardest thing in the game, 8 boss fights, but 8 boss fights, all 8 bosses, all contest mode. You got to get your crew together, and you got to be ready to roll. We haven't had that outside of day 1 raids, and maybe this would bring that challenge back, which would be nice.
If I can't do it with my existing loadout, I legit have to grind. Then I'll stop saying Destiny's not hard. I just haven't. I haven't encountered
and the weapon
that with
problem
any...
is solved.
That kind of depends on your other 5 teammates, though.
Are they carrying?
I mean,
are they
nobody's as
carrying
good as
Travis?
Nobody's as good as me, Scarrow. Right?
Yeah,
So,
fair enough.
Yeah,
modesty, one of Travis's strong suits.
But yeah, I think this is. I'm interested to see how challenging this is. Again, it is reused content. I'm not like hyping this up or saying it's gonna be amazing. You're fighting the same bosses you fought 50 times already, and one of them is Ajax, which I fought that guy 85 times for rocket launcher. I've never. So I just
But now you have to do it under light, and you only have a couple weeks to do it.
Under light. I mean, I did all of these in contest mode. I think I beat Atrax in contest mode. I got that emblem.
Okay.
But yeah, wasn't that 20 under? Isn't that where they're taking...
contest for Deepstone would have been...
I remember I was under. It was pretty challenging.
Different. Yeah, you would have been under. I don't remember. Yeah, I don't... They bounced around. I don't remember when minus 20 was settled on, though. I don't remember off the top of my head. It might have been
either way.
but
The encounter they chose from that one isn't the hard one, though, right? Like these are all final bosses, and the hard one on that one, at least day 1, was
No, it was Atrax. Atrax was definitely the hardest one.
Atrax is probably harder.
Atrax
But I'm surprised. I don't.
reason a lot of people.
Yeah. Atrax broke people. Yeah, that was on contest.
Wait, is that the room with the elevators?
Yeah, with the elevators, you're going up.
Okay, yeah. I take it back. That was the hardest one. That was the one that I was stuck on. Like,
Tanix is the other one.
But is
Tanix I destroyed.
Tanix is not on the list.
They didn't even include Tanix in the list.
No, I mean there's a lot of bosses.
People would
there's
lose
a lot
their
of good
shit
fights.
if they include Tanix.
Yeah, that's
people
true.
Would lose their minds.
There's a lot of good, but it's also cool because it's like Atrax is the 4th boss, so she's the final boss of the first rush, which means she's the theme of the first emblem. So we get a sick Atrax emblem.
Yeah, that emblem does look dope.
Yeah, all the emblems look really cool.
Yeah. No, big fan. So, and the final emblem has all 8 bosses on it. And but they're kind of like little Easter eggs. It looks really good.
It looks sick.
I'm so excited for this. I honestly I'm floored.
Speaking of Easter eggs, apparently I didn't know this. I saw some like random TikTok or YouTube short. Apparently, if you focus on what's like the historic thing, like the timeline, you just hang on the main page, you can actually watch like Telesto like rotate by or something.
Oh, really?
Like if you hang on it for like a minute, it's small, but it's like, like I gotta go check it out. Yeah, I don't know if somebody like fudged it in there or what, but now I'm gonna have to go like, stare at the timeline for a little while. But they're like, oh, there's nothing there, and then they waited, and the clip later has this little tiny thing like floating through, so Telesto might be on the timeline as a baby Easter egg.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yep. Well, I think we've had about over a 2-hour episode, so I feel like we covered a lot. We'll dive more into the light and everything a little bit more next week and see what else we get in the interim. Free Geeks with the 10 memberships. Thank you very much, by the way, to end the show like that. And thank you, everybody, for showing up for the episode, watching us live. Had some really good numbers this episode. Thank you guys all for being here. Greatly appreciate that. If you enjoy the show, drop a like on the episode while you're sitting here listening or watching or however you do. Or if you hear this later on and you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or wherever, leave the positive feedback how best you can. Helps more people find the show, which is, keeps chat interesting and usually gets a few good jokes in there. But before we go, Scarrow, Mano, thank you guys for joining us. I know you've been here a few times before, but we always appreciate having you guys in there. Travis, appreciate you.
Regulars, just like me. I'm also just a guest.
Just a guest regular. Yeah, you flirt with being just a guest every episode. Yeah. So it's once
That's
again,
what I want.
Yeah.
I want nothing
He's
more than that.
never quite permanent, but
Also, they call me a host. I've never hosted the show or helped at all. I don't help with the making of the
gotta
show.
help.
They're never like, "Hey Travis, can you handle intro today?" I'm like, "No. I'm not going to do that."
There's a tie in the logo though.
Yeah.
Yes, is it time?
yep.
I mean, I don't know. It's where am I? What did they do with me? Am I in the fire?
Oh,
Yeah. I think I'm the meal or the log.
the tie over the
They had enough of your B conspiracy theories,
Yeah.
Travis.
Yeah, that's right.
No more. Well, I'm just gonna put bees flying all around the picture just for the next episode. There's bees everywhere.
Let's go.
Yes. So thank you guys for a great episode. Quick outros. If you guys want to say anything, the floor is yours. Just go around the horn and say what you want to say to anybody who made it this far in the episode. Besides, thank you all for making it here.
No doubt. Thought we were
Apparently the
scattered.
Fallout show's good. Go watch that.
Yeah, I heard
Yeah.
it's really
Yeah.
good.
I don't have anything to promote. I've got some reviews coming out. Scarrow, what do you got?
Scarrow.
I'm killing time until the next 2 months. Like, holy, I go to Hawaii in a week and a half. Very excited for
sweet.
that.
Nice. Enjoy the
Nice.
trip.
Nice.
And,
Say hello. I have it on good authority that everyone there speaks fluent Japanese. Because I
Infinite
just
Wealth?
played
I'm
Infinite
playing
Wealth.
Infinite Wealth.
so
Infinite Wealth told me.
don't
That's how it
forget
is.
to everybody says aloha, and then as soon as you walk away from the conversation, they go arigato gozaimasu. Just like a really deep voice. So yeah,
what's the thing they say when the enemies? What they always say to you? You want to what?
it's not a show, shithead.
It's not a show, shit.
It's not a show, shithead. That's the
All the enemies
catchphrase
say
of
that. Randoms.
that's the state slogan of Hawaii.
Yes.
It's not a show.
okay,
shithead,
okay, good
so
to know. Good to
don't
know. Thank you
forget
for the
that.
advice.
Important
But
things.
yeah, final shape, I'm going hard. I'm so excited
yeah.
for it. So we're here. We're back. We are so back. We are so Blackburn, even though we're not because he left.
Yeah.
But
He left.
Yes, he's gone. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he did work on this expansion. So.
yeah,
Ooh,
we're so
Child
green, whatever for Tyson Green doesn't sound the same. So we're so Blackburn still. Let's go.
Shout out to Black Pearl.
The light is green. That's what we say
The light is
Mm.
green.
when we're back.
That's Strands of Darkness subclass though. So
That is true.
I'm
I'm sorry,
talking about the
Mano.
person.
Your turn.
All right, go.
No,
Man,
it's
oh.
okay. I promise that I will make another YouTube video at some point. Just had a lot of personal stuff going on, so appreciate anyone
How
who
dare
just
you.
checking out this stuff. I know, right? Personal life stuff.
How
That's
dare
not
you
what
have
your
a
followers
life.
are there
Dare you.
for, bro.
But no, I promise at some point I will make new content other than just streaming.
Nice.
But I'm just excited. Birthday is like a week after the final shape comes out, so maybe when is the raid? We don't know when the raid itself.
don't know
is.
when
the
the
raid
raid
is
is.
that-
It'll probably be the Friday after.
Friday after,
Yes,
so
please.
like 10 days or something
Oh,
like that.
Please.
Do
Like-
not schedule. I have this on good authority. Do not schedule your PhD defense the Friday after expansion
Yeah,
launches.
Don't do that.
That's a really stupid
birthday-
idea.
My birthday would be the day before the new raid, so maybe I don't know.
Ooh.
It's on Flag Day, we'll see.
There you
I don't know,
go.
So maybe happy birthday. It'll be fun. I still have to find a raid team, so I mean I've just been wild crazy with everything. So I'll find someone at some point, but we got to do it on day one. Got to do it on day one.
Got to.
I heard Travis is the best Destiny player ever. So
Yeah, that's what I heard.
He carries all of his other teammates, right?
Yeah.
Rumor on the street.
He's got a
Word on the street.
big backpack.
Yeah, word on the
That's right.
street.
Travis and the Ties. That's the name of the team.
Travis and his tie collection. There you go.
That collection, no doubt.
Yeah, I got a
My
preview.
team would be called the Tiebreakers. By the way.
Oh, that's good.
Nice.
They hurt me.
Nailed it. Nailed
Yeah.
it.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
And on that bombshell, just stay tuned to all of the wonderful platforms these great faces put out content on. So IGN, Iron Lords Podcast, Last Stand Media, YouTube channels all over the place. Lots of content coming for lots of things.
Oh,
Surprisingly,
visit Scarrow's OnlyFans. By the way,
Yes,
I
do that.
discovered this last week. I was surprised by the tasteful depth of content. So give that a look. I
Yeah,
would
that's right.
recommend. Yeah.
Yeah.
On Shadow there too.
Yeah, I loved your collab with Cog. I thought that was really interesting, inventive. It was cool.
I got
No,
to
Work with
mine
Man on Next. I
mine
got
had a
Man on Next.
spike,
He
and
coming
then
out with
my
our
only
content.
my only calves had a spike, but then it fell off. You know that
Then it fell off.
didn't have a long
yeah.
run, so it's all
Yeah,
good.
too bad.
Bouncing back.
Yeah. All right. Thank you all very much. This has been a hilariously great episode and a fun one to talk about a lot of Destiny. The hype is here, and we will be here for the final shape. Thank you guys for episode 292. It has been
the last
The last word.
Guardians out.